Chapter 77. Number 3, are you done yet? That's right, number 3, we're about to outrun the blue circle, so let's just stop here, alright? Stop here? Why didn't you just stop here earlier? Ignoring the words of his two teammates, Lin Jiej made a swift U-turn and drove over the bodies of the two once more. Just like before, he leaped out of the car and walked up to the kneeling duo. Just as he was about to reach out to save them, a thought suddenly came to his mind and he asked, "Are you guys trying to rush your points?" Teammate number 2. That's right, brother. We're planning to rush into the top 500, so can you please stop messing around? It was no wonder they refused to quit the game no matter how much I ravaged them. They were trying to rush their points. Oh, I see. Lin Jiej replied leisurely before retracting his hand. Teammate number 1. Brother, what are you doing? Why aren't you saving us? Teammate number 2. Hurry up, brother. This is the 8th time I've been run over by you, and my health is dropping very quickly. If you don't save me, I'll be dead soon. It's only been a few minutes since the game started, and I'll lose a lot of points. I won't even be able to make up for the points I've won in the past 3 rounds. Teammate number 1. Brother, I'm going to die soon. Save me, save me. Hey, pretty lady beside me, don't just watch the show. Come and help me too. Since you're trying to rush your points, Lin Jiej said leisurely. Thinking that Lin Jiej was going to save them, the two teammates immediately stopped their bickering and nodded in agreement. Lin Jiej panted heavily, and he fell silent for a second before his lips moved once more. I won't save you then, are you for real? The heck? Hashtag yen in %yen. Amidst the unbearable curses of the two teammates, one of them was turned into a crate. Paying no heed to their words, Lin Jiej calmly changed his sitting posture and said leisurely, earlier, I ran over you and saved you. This is the consequence of offending your mother. You can neither live nor die even if you want to. As his voice fell, the other person also turned into a box. While controlling his in-game character to jump around on the corpses of his two teammates, Lin Jiej continued nonchalantly, by not saving you and leaving you to die on the spot, I'm only helping your mother teach you a lesson. There's something that I don't know if I should say. F***ck, I've seen despicable people, but I've never seen someone as despicable as you. Brother, I admire you. Amidst the frenzied curses of the duo, Lin Jiej chose to exit the game. Tapping into WeChat, he searched for Yao loves ice cream and sent a private message. Exit the game. When 111111 knocked down 2 of her teammates, Yao was stunned for a moment before she finally came to her senses. How could there be such a trick? Initially, she thought that Mr. Number's repeated revivals and crushing of 2 of her teammates had already caused her eyeballs to explode. However, after seeing Mr. Number's performance, she realized that even if she had 10 pairs of eyeballs, it still wouldn't be enough to make her eyeballs explode. Mr. Numbers was simply too despicable, so despicable that it made one's hair stand on end. But speaking of which, the mouths of those 2 players were really hateful. She was already in a terrible mood, so much so that she didn't want to play anymore. But after Mr. Number's intervention, not only did her mood improve, she even found the game much more fun than usual. Chapter 78. It must be said that Mr. Number's mouth was truly venomous. The consequences of offending your mother. Isn't he indirectly saying that I'm the mother of those 2 passerby teammates? Even though she disliked those 2 passerby teammates, she didn't really mind if she could take advantage of them. With such thoughts in mind, Yao's lips couldn't help but curl up into a smile. Then the phone in her hand suddenly vibrated, startling her so much that she nearly dropped it. Snapping out of her thoughts, Yao tapped into WeChat, and the first thing she saw was a message from less than 111,111. Quit the game. Yao replied within before adding a, alright, before returning to the game and returning to the main hall. Seeing that less than 111,111 wasn't going to start the game, she switched back to WeChat and sent a message. I'm back in the main hall. Less than 111,111 didn't reply, so she switched back to the game. Seeing that less than 111,111 hadn't started the game yet, she returned to WeChat and sent another message. You're not going to play anymore. Just as Yao was thinking that Mr. Numbers might ignore her, she should send another message saying, I'll be going off to play by myself. Just as she was about to leave the room, a message suddenly popped up on her screen. Less than 111,111, those two later. Sure Yao knew that those two were referring to Juice and Expert. She casually chose an okay emoticon and sent it over. Less than 111,111 was still as aloof as ever, and he didn't respond to her at all. Sure Yao casually grabbed a bag of plums from the table, tore open the bag and stuffed one into her mouth. As she ate, she pondered for a moment before sending another message to less than 111,111. Thank you for what happened in the game earlier. Perhaps it was because Mr. Numbers was bored, he replied swiftly. There's no need to thank me. I just can't stand those two's cheap mouths. It has nothing to do with you. In other words, he would have done the same even if it was someone else in his place? Alright, it does seem like any normal person would have stepped in to help in such a situation. But surely the god doesn't have to be so cold with his words? How am I supposed to reply to him? Sure Yao stuffed 3 plums into her mouth before she started typing. Even so, I still have to thank you. Sure Yao added a cute emoji before adding. Speaking of which, your driving sure is smooth. Even though those two were trying to dodge, you were still able to hit them accurately. Slip away. Girl, are you sure you're complimenting me? This is basic, okay? Lin Jiej was speechless for a moment before he finally moved his finger and said, That's true. For someone like you who only knows how to play a low-end game, it's indeed quite smooth. After sending the message, Lin Jiej, who had been sitting down for too long, stood up and rubbed his neck. As he rubbed it, he stopped. If Big White Chubby hadn't thanked him, he probably wouldn't have realized that he had helped her in the game. In fact, even if it was a girl he didn't know in the game, he would still lend a helping hand. The reason was simple. He couldn't stand the sight of people using the internet to hurt others without knowing each other. However, it seemed like he had gone a little overboard. Just like last week at Golden Resplendence, when he saw the aggrieved look on Soft Bun's face, he couldn't help but kiss her. This was really weird. Big White Chubby and Soft Bun were clearly two different people, so why did he always have the same impulse to do things that even he found inconceivable? P.S. Good Jolin, I know, but I'm not telling you. I can only say that no matter how arrogant you are, be it in or out of the game, you won't be able to escape my Yao Yao's grasp. Chapter 79. If he had to find something in common between the two of them, it would be that they were both delicious. Lin Jiej seriously compared Big White Chubby and Soft Bun in his mind. One of them was filled with food on her moments, and her mouth wouldn't stop even when she was playing games. The other was that her singing was related to food, and even when she was being confessed to, all she thought about was whether she could continue eating. It seemed like neither of them had a lower appetite than the other than that, it seemed like there was a huge gap between the two of them. Soft Bun was beautiful, a sweet and adorable kind of beauty. As for Big White Chubby, as these 3 words surfaced in Lin Jiej's mind, the image of a white and round unidentified life form appeared before his eyes once more. He shook his head and hurriedly tossed the image out of his head before continuing his train of thought. Big White Chubby had a good personality. She was simple and straightforward, not pretentious or pretentious at all. She gave off a very comfortable feeling. That's true. For a low-end gamer like you, she's indeed pretty good. Low-end gamer. Staring at those words, Sure Yao suddenly felt a little regretful for praising Mr. Numbers earlier. This doesn't seem like the first time I've been choked to death by him. It's no wonder he's such a reticent person. If he were to open his mouth, wouldn't everyone just ignore him? Sure Yao chose to remain silent and focused on eating her plums. After finishing the bag of plums swiftly, she recalled that she had sent a message to 111,111 not too long ago, but he hadn't replied to it. Now that he was talking to her, she should make use of this opportunity to apologize to him and let bygones be bygones lest she felt uneasy about it. With this thought in mind, Sure Yao picked up her phone and began recalling the script she had prepared a week ago. There's something that I have to explain to you. I didn't mean to say those words to you last week. I said those words in a moment of desperation. But no matter what, it was wrong of me to say those words to you, so I'm sorry. Lin Jiej, who was still immersed in his own thoughts, was jolted out of his reverie by a notification from his WeChat. He took a look at Yao loves ice cream's message, and he was stunned for a moment before realizing that she was referring to the time when she called him an old virgin last week. Lin Jiej's expression suddenly turned a little unnatural. Actually, when he received her message in his grandfather's ward last week, he had wanted to reply. However, when he thought of what she had said to him, he felt a little embarrassed. In the end, he deleted the typed words one by one and chose to ignore them. It had already been a week, and he had thought that no one would bring up the matter anymore. Who would have thought? Big White Chubby was such a persistent person. However, since a girl apologized so generously, there was no reason for him to be petty. Lin Jiej swiftly tapped on the screen. It's all in the past. I've long forgotten about it. Upon seeing 111,111's message, Shi Yao's heart finally calmed down. However, there was no woman in the world who would like others to call her a fatty, not to mention a fatty who couldn't even climb onto a bed. Thus, after hesitating for a moment, Shi Yao still decided to earnestly explain to less than 111,111. Chapter 80. Even though it's all in the past and I've forgotten about it, I still want to say that I'm not a fatty. I'm really only 40 kilograms and I'm 1.65 meters tall, not 1.4 meters. I'm very nimble, so there's no way I can't climb onto a bed. I can even do a split right now. Also, I'm as light as a swallow and I'm really good at high jumping. I even got first place in my school's high jump competition during the high school sports meet. Lin Jiej was in the midst of drinking water when he saw Yao loves ice cream. Messages coming in one after another, and he couldn't help but spurt out his drink. Did Big White Chubby have to be so adorable? Why is she so insistent on explaining things to me? Is it because we're separated by the internet, and no one knows who the other is, so she's acting so brazenly? Alright, you're not a fatty, you're a stubborn fatty. Lin Jiej thought as he typed on the screen and replied, I believe you. In order to express his sincerity, Lin Jiej intentionally changed that to. After sending the message, Lin Jiej casually put his phone down. A moment later, he picked it up again and began typing on the keyboard once more. Let me make it clear to you that I'm not an old virgin. I'm a man who loves his chastity. The reason why I've never had a girlfriend since I was young is because I'm not fickle. Of course, I'm not the ugliest man in the universe, and I'm not so ugly that my roommates can't even eat when they see me. On the contrary, I'm very handsome, and there are countless girls chasing after me. The number of love letters I've received is more than the number of math problems you've done. I'm not bragging to you, but I'm even more handsome than those celebrities. I've always been the most handsome man in the school ever since I was young. It's because I'm a man that I can't participate in the campus belle competition. If I didn't have any integrity, the title of campus belle and campus hunk would be mine. Shi Yao, who had just taken a huge mouthful of yogurt, nearly spurted it out when she saw the string of messages on the screen. It was fortunate that she managed to hold it in, or else it would be a pity to waste the yogurt. But then again, this Mr. Numbers sure knows how to brag. Does he take me for a fool? If he was really as handsome as he said, with so many girls chasing after him, she didn't believe that he didn't have a girlfriend. It was most likely because they didn't interact with each other in real life, which was why they were so confident, right? Forget it. Since he had said that he trusted her, she would be merciful and not expose him. Thus, Shi Yao typed a few words on the screen. I believe you. Just as Shi Yao was about to hit send, she remembered that Mr. Numbers had used an exclamation mark to express his sincerity, so she decided to change the period to an exclamation mark as well. Shi Yao paused for a moment before adding 2 more exclamation marks. Then she sent over, I believe you. A second after Shi Yao's message was sent, expert of the monkeys, and it returned to their dormitory room and appeared in the sexy and frisky group. Yao loves ice cream and less than 111,111 didn't exchange messages anymore. The thought that came to their minds was it's a sin to have spoken against my conscience, so they logged back into the game. The next day after lunch, Shi Yao took a bus to the hospital to visit Grandpa Lin. Lin Jiej had a lesson at 2 in the afternoon, so he dawdled around in his dormitory room until 1:55 p.m. Only then did he leisurely make his way to the classroom with Xia Shangzhou and Lu Benlai in tow. Halfway there, his phone suddenly rang. It was a call from the driver. Young master, there's something that I forgot to tell you. Miss Shi said that she's going to visit Grandpa Lin in the afternoon. Chapter 81. Halfway there, his phone suddenly rang. It was a call from the chauffeur. Young master, there's something that I forgot to tell you. Miss Sure said that she's going to the hospital to visit Grandpa Lin this afternoon. Sure. Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly to the driver's words. Is there something wrong with the driver? Why would he call me when Soft Bun is visiting her grandfather? Thus, he lowered the phone from his ear, intending to hang up the call. When the phone was about to fall on his neck, Lin Jiej suddenly froze on the spot, as if someone had struck his acupoints. Seeing that Lin Jiej had come to a halt, Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai also came to a halt in bewilderment. They turned to look at him in confusion. Boss, what's wrong? Who called you? You look so serious. Ignoring the two fellows, Lin Jiej raised his phone to his ear once more. And his tone was no longer as cool and composed as before. Why didn't you tell me earlier that she's going to visit my grandfather in the afternoon? Before the driver could explain himself, Lin Jiej had already spoken up. As he spoke, he turned around and walked towards the school gate. Didn't you call me last night to tell me that the matter has been settled? Is this what you mean by done? Lu Binlai, boss, you're going in the opposite direction. The classroom is over there. Xia Shangzhou said, boss, there's only 1 minute left before class starts. It's the Demon King's class. Although he likes you a lot, he'll definitely torture you to death if you skip class so openly. If he continued to walk in their direction, then he would really be walking in the opposite direction. Not to mention the Great Devil King, even if it was Abbess Miju, he would not be able to attend this class. Lin Jiej didn't bother to ignore the two fellows behind him. He hung up the phone and hastened his footsteps. After a few steps, his brisk walk turned into a sprint. The taxi sped to the entrance of the hospital, and without even asking for change, Lin Jiej threw the money into the taxi and dashed straight for the inpatient building. There were quite a number of people queuing up for the elevator, so Lin Jiej waited for roughly 10 seconds before choosing the emergency exit by the side. Taking the stairs 2 steps at a time, he rushed up to the 10th floor. As soon as he entered the inpatient department, he saw Shi Yao's silhouette entering the ward. Luckily, she had just arrived. Without even daring to catch his breath, Lin Jiej dashed straight for the door. The door Shi Yao had just closed a second ago was suddenly pushed open by him, causing everyone in the ward to look at him in bewilderment. Auntie Sun was the first to speak. Young master, what's wrong? Sweating profusely from running? Inwardly relieved that he had made it in time, Lin Jiej stood silently on the spot, breathing heavily. Grandpa Lin, who was leisurely sipping on his tea by the headboard, shot a peculiar glance at Shi Yao, who had appeared out of nowhere, and Lin Jiej, who had also appeared out of nowhere. After which, he quickly adjusted his expression and feigned a look of severe illness. With a feeble voice, he turned to Auntie Sun and said, "This cup is a little heavy. I'll need you to change it for me." Auntie Sun hurriedly obeyed. Grandpa Lin took 2 sips of tea very reluctantly. "Auntie Sun, I'm a little tired. Help me lie down." Auntie Sun did as she was told. After Grandpa Lin was done lying down, he turned to Lin Jiej and asked, "Don't you have lessons this afternoon?" Chapter 82. Recovering from his shock, Lin Jiej tried his best to maintain his composure. As he walked into the ward, he casually came up with an excuse. "The Demon King is experiencing menstrual cramps." Demon King? Grandpa Lin frowned. That Zhang Laosher? Isn't he a male professor? Lin Jiej was silent for 2 seconds before he feigned a calm. "Oh," and replied, "I missed out 2 words. His wife." "Is that so?" Grandpa Lin took Lin Jiej's words to be true. Then he recalled that Professor Zhang, whom Lin Jiej referred to as the Demon King, was already in his 60s. Yet, his wife was still experiencing menstrual cramps. Perhaps there was a huge age gap between the two of them, so he added, "Professor Zhang's wife is quite young." Lin Jiej's lips twitched, but he didn't say a word. Grandpa Lin couldn't be bothered with him anymore. He turned to Shi Yao and said, "Yao, why are you still standing? Sit down." Grandpa Lin's Yao made Lin Jiej feel as if he had been whipped, and his back tensed up. Shi Yao obediently replied, "Grandpa Lin," before walking over to the bed. "Yao, why did you suddenly come over today?" Grandpa Lin's tone was always amiable when he spoke to Shi Yao, but in Lin Jiej's ears his tone was like a series of exploding mines. Before Shi Yao could speak, he had already interjected, Shi Yao, don't you have any lessons this afternoon? Shi Yao was just about to reply to Grandpa Lin's question, but Lin Jie's sudden interruption left her stunned. He's actually taking the initiative to talk to me? This seems to be the first time something like this has happened in the past few years. Shi Yao was stunned for 2 seconds before she turned to look at Lin Jie with a look of disbelief. She didn't say a word, only giving him a slight nod of her head. Thinking that he was going to ignore her, she turned around to reply to Grandpa Lin, but before she could do anything, his nonchalant voice sounded once more, have you eaten? Shi Yao's pitch-black eyes darted around in thought for a moment before she slowly nodded to Lin Jie and said, I did. What did you eat? Was this an awkward conversation? Shi Yao blinked her eyes a few times before replying, Yuxiang shredded pork, red braised pork, Sichuan poached fish, tea egg, a bowl of rice, a bowl of corn soup with ribs. He was just changing the topic. Did she have to reply in such detail? But Soft Bun actually has such a huge appetite? She could eat even more than him. With such a thin and weak body, she actually hid such an astonishing appetite. She really couldn't be underestimated. While Lin Jie was in a daze, Shi Yao had already turned to Grandpa Lin and asked, Grandpa Lin, you? Barely after Shi Yao said those words, a piercing sound suddenly echoed in the air. It was the sound of the chair dragging on the floor. Following which, a chair was placed behind Shi Yao. Before Shi Yao could make sense of what was going on, the reticent Lin Jie suddenly spoke up once more. Take a seat. Overwhelmed by the unexpected favor, Shi Yao glanced at the chair before turning to look at Lin Jie, not daring to sit down. Think it's dirty? I'll wipe it for you then. As he spoke, Lin Jie really reached for a napkin. Chapter 83. Do you want some water? There's no need, thank you. What about yogurt? Thank you, but what about milk? Thank you. What about fruits? Thank you. Which one do you want to eat? I'll wash it for you. Shi Yao felt as if she was sitting on a carpet of needles. Other than shaking her head, she wasn't able to utter a single word. Grandpa Lin, who was seated by the side, subtly winked at Auntie Sun upon seeing this sight, seemingly amused. The heck, this is even more taxing on my IQ than doing 100 advanced mathematics questions. Lin Jie racked his brains to say everything he could, but for a moment he stumbled. In this moment, Shi Yao, who was still thinking about the main reason why she was here, turned to Grandpa Lin and asked with a gentle voice, Grandpa Lin, are you feeling better? Do you still feel any discomfort? Ever since he was young, Lin Jie had always been able to calmly say that it had nothing to do with him no matter how big of a mess he made. Yet, upon hearing those words, a layer of cold sweat crept up his back. Why is Soft Bun just as persistent as Big White Chubby? I've been trying to change the topic for so long, but how did she still manage to come back? Grandpa Lin was overjoyed by Shi Yao's concern. With Yao Yao's concern, no matter how serious my illness is, it doesn't matter anymore. Shi Yao's lips curled into a smile as she spoke up once more. This time, before Lin Jie could stop or interrupt her, her words had already flowed out from the gaps between her lips. Grandpa, I'm really sorry about last night. I should have come to see you. A hint of doubt surfaced on Grandpa Lin's relaxed expression. Last night? What happened last night? What's to come has finally come. Gritting his teeth, Lin Jie turned to look out the window, not daring to look at what was about to happen in the ward. Shi Yao blinked her eyes. Thinking that Grandpa Lin was still in a daze, she spoke up once more. Didn't you suddenly feel unwell last night? You kept calling my name, wanting to see me, and even had the chauffeur fetch me. Last night, none of them came to the hospital to disturb him, and he happily dragged Auntie Sun along to cook hot pot together. How did it suddenly turn into him being unwell? And he even called out Yao Yao's name. Old Master Lin was stunned and thought that he was dreaming, since his lie had been exposed, and he didn't want her to know that he was the mastermind then. Since being tactful didn't work, he could only use force. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jie gritted his teeth as he turned his gaze toward his grandfather. He interjected before his grandfather could speak, looking as if he had just remembered something after Shi Yao's reminder. If Yao Yao hadn't brought it up, I would have forgotten about it. Grandfather, how are you feeling now? Are you feeling better than last night? Do you need me to ask my sister abroad to invite an expert to come back and take a good look? Yao Yao? Yao Yao. Sure. Yao's lips parted slightly, and roughly 5 seconds later, she stared blankly at Lin Jiej. Did he just call her Yao Yao? Grandpa Lin was even more confused by Lin Jiej's words. Chapter 84. Grandpa Lin took a moment to calm himself down before sorting out his chaotic thoughts. Yao Yao, you said that I was seriously ill yesterday, and I kept calling your name wanting to meet you? That's right. Sure. Yao nodded. It was a message from Lin Jiej. Soft bun, would you die if you didn't add the second half of the sentence? Do you know that you're trying to murder your own husband? No, your fiancé. Lin Jiej felt as if he had brought along a lousy teammate with him. Lin Jiej. Grandpa Lin repeated Lin Jiej's name before turning his gaze to Lin Jiej. Meeting his grandfather's gaze, Lin Jiej's temples throbbed violently. Since he was already halfway there, he might as well go all the way. So, he steeled his heart and stared straight into Grandpa Lin's eyes as he said, Grandfather, have you forgotten that I'm going to teach you a lesson? Didn't you tell me to call Yao Yao and ask her to come over last night? When did I? Before Grandpa Lin could finish his words, Lin Jiej had already blinked his eyes in astonishment. Grandfather, you really don't remember? Last night I came to the hospital to visit you, and while we were eating together, your blood pressure suddenly became unstable, and you even came down with a high fever. You kept calling Yao Yao's name. Nonsense. This is utter nonsense. This brat hasn't come to the hospital for an entire week, so when did I have dinner together with him last night? And your blood pressure became unstable, and you even came down with a high fever. Your entire family's blood pressure became unstable, and you're the one who came down with a high fever. Boo! Grandpa Lin nearly leaped up in anger. Lin Jiej stood calmly on the spot, and as innocent as he could be, he said once more, Grandfather, please think about it carefully. If you can't remember it, you're making me feel like I'm a human being. You're speaking as if you're a human being right now. Boo! Grandpa Lin pointed a finger at Lin Jiej as his face reddened. But before he could finish his sentence, Lin Jiej had already calmly and confidently added, You're making it sound like I'm lying to Yao. As if stuck in his throat, Grandpa Lin abruptly froze on the spot. He had no idea why Lin Jiej would use him as a scapegoat, but if he exposed him, he will let Yao Yao know that he is lying. Now both of their marriage is on the verge of collapse. If this stinky brat's dark history is smeared, wouldn't it? Grandpa Lin took a deep breath, and then another deep breath. Then with a smile on his face he said, If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. As he spoke, Grandpa Lin turned to Shi Yao and said, Yao, I'm getting on in years, and my memory isn't as good as it seems. Yesterday I had a really bad fever, so I'm still in a daze today. Sai, here's what happened yesterday. Auntie Sun made a cake and I thought that you would surely like it, so I asked them to send it over to you. I don't even have the strength to finish a sentence. Since you're so heartless, then don't blame me for putting you in your place. Anyway, there's no cake. You'll have to figure out a way to get it yourself. With this thought in mind, Grandpa Lin turned to Lin Jiej and said, The cake is in the fridge at home. Aren't you from the same school as Yao Yao? Why don't you go home later to get it and send it back to Yao Yao? Lin Jiej's eyelids fluttered, and he replied with an "Oh" in agreement. Chapter 85. After hearing Grandpa Lin's explanation, Shi Yao took it for granted. She obediently reminded Grandpa Lin to take care of himself, but before she could finish her words, someone knocked on the door of the ward. Standing at the side, Auntie Sun, who had chosen to protect herself from the very beginning and had not spoken a single word since the beginning, walked toward the door of the ward as she asked in a slightly perplexed tone, The doctor just checked the ward. Who could have come at this hour? Opening the door, Auntie Sun saw who it was, and she exclaimed in astonishment, Miss Liang, why are you here? Miss Liang? Isn't that Liang Mumu? Shi Yao turned around and looked at the door. Dressed in a light yellow dress, Liang Mumu stood at the entrance of the ward with a bright smile on her face. She greeted Auntie Sun politely. Auntie Sun, nice to meet you. I'm here to visit Grandpa Lin. Auntie Sun stepped aside and said, Miss Liang, please come in. Upon seeing Liang Mumu, Shi Yao hurriedly stood up and said, Mumu. While Shi Yao wasn't paying attention, Grandpa Lin immediately made use of this opportunity to shoot a warning glare at Lin Jie. Hearing Shi Yao's voice, Liang Mumu turned to look at her, and the smile on her face grew even more radiant. What a coincidence! Yao Yao, you're here to visit Grandpa Lin too. Before Shi Yao could say anything, Liang Mumu's gaze fell on Lin Jie, and she said graciously, Brother Jia, you're here too. Ignoring his grandfather's menacing glare, Lin Jie nodded at Liang Mumu silently. Liang Mumu was used to Lin Jie's cold attitude, so she didn't take it to heart. In the next second, she turned to look at Grandpa Lin with a bright smile and said, Grandpa Lin, I heard from Yao Yao that you're ill. I've been wanting to visit you for a long time, but I've been busy lately so I haven't been able to find the time. I didn't think that I would bump into Brother Jia and Yao Yao here today. As she spoke, Liang Mumu lifted the bags in her hands and said, These are some nutritional supplements that I specially bought for you at the supermarket. As soon as Liang Mumu spoke, Grandpa Lin had already retracted his gaze from Lin Jie. He waited for Liang Mumu to finish her words before replying with a smile, Mumu, you're getting more and more sensible. Grandpa Lin, what are you saying? You doted on me a lot when I was young. Now that you're sick, isn't it only right for me to come and visit you? Liang Mumu passed the nutritional supplements to Auntie Sun one by one, not forgetting to tell her how and when to consume them. Due to Liang Mumu's arrival, the ward became much livelier. Ever since she was young, she had always been a smooth talker. Her mouth was also very sweet, so much so that old Master Lin was unable to close his mouth. On the other hand, Shi Yao found herself at a loss for words. Eventually, Shi Yao decided to just sit by the side and focus on munching on the apple that Auntie Sun had washed for her. Lin Jie was leaning against the windowsill with his head lowered, looking at his phone, as if he was out in the open. From time to time, Liang Mumu would say something to him. Sometimes he would nod his head, but other times, it was as if he hadn't heard anything at all. Before class, Lin Jie had forgotten to charge his phone. He had been browsing through Weibo for a while when his phone suddenly reminded him that it was low on battery, so he quickly put his phone away. Chapter 86. Not too far away, Liang Mumu seemed to be saying something to her grandfather. Her voice rose and fell rhythmically, but Lin Jie found it a little too noisy. After standing in the room for a while, he finally couldn't take it anymore, so he straightened his body, intending to head out for some fresh air. However, before he could do so, he caught sight of Shi Yao sitting on a chair not too far away from him. The young lady was holding an apple that was roughly the size of her face, and she was munching on it intently. It was as if there was nothing else in her eyes other than the apple in her hands. Every time she took a bite of the apple, her eyes would curve into a smile. It was as if she had the entire world in her hands, and there were traces of bliss all around her. He had seen people eating with gusto before, but this was the first time he was seeing someone eating so happily. She sure was a girl who was easily satisfied with what she had. Lin Jie couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. Towards the end, when the young lady's eyes curved into a smile as she took a bite of the apple, the corners of his lips curled up as well. After staring for some time, the sunlight from the window shone into the room through the window and onto Shi Yao's body, making her fair and tender skin appear even more exquisite. The sight before him was a little beautiful. So beautiful that Lin Jie felt an urge to preserve it forever. As this thought flashed across his mind, he subconsciously took out his low-battery phone from his pocket, tapped on the camera, and silently aimed it at Shi Yao. At this moment, Shi Yao happened to take a big bite of the apple, causing her cheeks to puff up. In an instant, her delicate oval face became round and adorable. Lin Jie quickly tapped on the camera to capture this scene. Brother Jia? Are you returning to school or going home? Before Lin Jie could take a closer look at the photo he had taken, Liang Mumu's gentle voice sounded from the side. Lin Jie shot a glance at Liang Mumu before replying impassively, "Let's talk about it later." At the same time, he locked his phone back into his pocket. "I was thinking that if you were to go home we could..." Liang Mumu spoke up once more, but Lin Jie didn't say anything else. On the other hand, Shi Yao's phone suddenly rang with a ding-dong. While chewing on the apple, she freed one hand to take out her phone from her bag. "Yao Yao, how about you? Are you in a hurry to return to school? If you're not in a hurry, you can go to my house for dinner first." It just so happens that my cousin sent us Hokkaido crabs this morning. I can ask my aunt to cook for us tonight." As Liang Mumu spoke, she walked up to Shi Yao and feigned exhaustion from standing for too long. Then she hugged Shi Yao from the back and placed her weight on Shi Yao's body. "It's fine. I already made plans with my roommates to have dinner together tonight," Shi Yao replied to Liang Mumu as she tapped on her message. It was a message from Han Jing. "Shi Yao, my mom just sent me some specialties from my hometown. Are you in the dormitory? I'll send them over to you." Chapter 87. Shi Yao replied as she stowed her phone away. "Your classmate?" When did Liang Mumu become so curious about what she was doing in school? Shi Yao's chewing on her apple paused for a moment, and she fell silent for 2 seconds before replying. "No, it's a senior of mine. Han Jing." "Senior? Is it that senior Han who confessed to me?" Inconspicuously, Lin Jiej frowned. "Why, I'm so envious of you. Your senior actually treats you so well. He even sent you the souvenirs his mother sent you as soon as possible. Why don't I have such a good classmate?" Liang Mumu's tone was filled with envy, just like her own words. On the bed, Grandpa Lin, who wasn't paying much attention to Shi Yao's message, suddenly turned to look at Shi Yao warily upon hearing those words. Shi Yao didn't respond to Liang Mumu's words. Instead, her lips curled up slightly before she continued eating her apple. On the other hand, Liang Mumu seemed to have yet to finish her conversation with Shi Yao. As if recalling something, she spoke up once more. "Oh, I seem to remember something. Senior Han is from the same hometown as one of your roommates, right? I do have quite an impression of him. He seems to be quite good-looking, has a good personality, and is quite a gentle person. If I remember correctly, on your birthday last year, he was the one who secretly paid the bill, right?" A deep frown appeared on Grandpa Lin's forehead. To send gifts to Yao Yao as soon as possible and even secretly pay for her birthday. What kind of relationship does that male senior have with Yao Yao? So they're already so close. He even attended her birthday banquet. Speaking of which, when is her birthday? Lin Jiej suddenly felt vexed. Other than the fact that her name is Shi Yao and that she has a big appetite, I don't know anything about her at all. Oh, speaking of which, you and I can be considered to be acquainted. I remember that we even went to a bar together once. Lin Jiej felt a ball of fire burning in his chest, and his frown deepened. Liang Juxi's cousin sure is sick in the head. Why does she keep bringing up this topic? But before the word long could form in Lin Jiej's mind, he suddenly froze. Roughly 2 seconds later, he raised his head to look at Liang Mumu, who seemed to be chatting innocently with Shi Yao in her arms, before turning his gaze to his grandfather. Upon seeing the slight displeasure on his grandfather's face, Lin Jiej came to a realization. The difference between two girls was really huge. Isn't it good to live a simple life? Why did he have to make himself so hateful, dirty, and vile? But soft bun, should I call her a fool or should I call her innocent? Could she not see through such an obvious trick? Grandpa was really something. The fiancé he found for him was actually a little idiot. But so be it. He was smart anyway. If he complimented each other a little, it wouldn't affect the intelligence of the future generations. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej replied calmly, "Oh, you're talking about Han Jing." Liang Mumu didn't expect Lin Jiej to interject all of a sudden. She raised her head to look at Lin Jiej and replied with a smile, "That's right, Han Jing. Yao Yao calls him Senior Han." Chapter 88. After saying those words, Lin Jiej discreetly shot a glance at his grandfather. Just as he had expected, his grandfather's expression swiftly reverted back to his usual benevolent smile. "So you're a friend of Jiej and Yao. To think that you even thought of bringing food to Yao Yao as soon as possible. You sure know our Yao Yao well. It seems like you're a good friend of mine. If you have the time, you should bring him over to play. Since we're all in Beijing, it's only right for us to take care of our foreign classmates." Lin Jiej nodded in agreement to his grandfather's words. Of course, he didn't forget to glance at Liang Mumu's face. The smile on the girl's face became a little fake. Well, how could it not be fake? He had painstakingly put on a show for half a day, but he had ruined it with just one sentence. But then again, she deserved it. Soft Bun might seem like a defenseless person, making her an easy target to bully, But that was only on the surface. If she really wanted to bully her, that would depend on whether Lin Jiej would allow it or not. What a pain in the ass. A perfectly fine ward had been turned into a foul atmosphere. It was even scarier than the worst smog in Beijing. Society, it seemed that he had to drag the little nerd away to wash his lungs. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej straightened his back and said, "Grandfather, it's getting late. I still have a dinner date with my classmates, so I'll be taking my leave first." Let's go. Old Master Lin waved his hand, looking as if he couldn't wait for him to get lost. The corners of Lin Jiej's lips twitched, but he didn't say a word as he walked toward the door. As he walked past Shi Yao, he reached out and grabbed her arm, pulling her out of Liang Mumu's embrace. "It's on the way, so I'll give you a lift back to school." Lin Jiej didn't let go of Shi Yao's arm, so she followed behind him and staggered toward the door. She could only turn around to bid farewell to Grandpa Lin. When her gaze fell upon Liang Mumu's face, she hesitated for a moment before waving her hand and saying, "Mumu, goodbye. Goodbye, I'll see you again if I say you're a little idiot. You're really an idiot." Before Liang Mumu could respond to Shi Yao's words, Shi Yao had already been dragged out of the ward by Lin Jiej. The closed door blocked Liang Mumu's line of sight, making it impossible for her to see Shi Yao anymore. The driver was already waiting at the entrance of the hospital building. After stuffing Shi Yao into the car, Lin Jiej finally let go of her arm. After the driver fastened his seatbelt, he asked, "Young master, are you going to school?" Without saying a word, Lin Jiej harumphed coldly. Not long after the car drove off, Shi Yao's phone suddenly rang once more. Was it that Han Jing who had replied to her? Lin Jiej immediately straightened his back warily as he discreetly shot a glance at Shi Yao. He saw the girl take out her phone, unlock the screen and open the message. It really was Han Jing who had replied to her message. Even though there were a few lines of words, with his amazing eyesight, he could still see them clearly. "When are you coming back? This time specialty can't be left overnight. It'll go bad. My mom sent it over and put a lot of ice bags in it to barely keep it from going bad. So we still have to eat it tonight." Shi Yao moved her fingers and said, "I should be able to reach the academy in around half an hour. Senior Han. Okay then, tell me when you arrive, I'll send it over to you." Lin Jiej didn't bother looking at Shi Yao's subsequent messages. Instead, he turned his gaze to the window. He stared at the rapidly retreating street for a moment before a glint flashed across his eyes, and he said, "Let's make a trip home first." Chapter 89. Lin Jiej didn't bother looking at Shi Yao's subsequent messages. Instead, he turned his gaze to the window. He stared at the passing scenery for a moment before a glint flashed across his eyes, and he said, "Let's make a trip home first." The car was initially quiet, but his abrupt voice caused both the driver and Shi Yao to turn to look at him. The driver quickly recovered from his daze and replied with an "all right" before changing the route. "If he's going home, what about me?" Shi Yao stared at Lin Jiej for 5 seconds before the car passed by a subway station. She quickly spoke up, then, "Let me down. I'll take the subway back to school. What about the cake?" Lin Jiej shot a glance at Shi Yao as he asked coldly, "So he's going home to bring me a cake?" Before Shi Yao could say anything, Lin Jiej had already spoken up. "You can't be thinking of having me bring it back to your dormitory, right?" Without any hesitation, Shi Yao shook her head vehemently. "And no. 6 years ago, when his resistance was futile and he was forced to accept her as his fiancée, he had explained the rules to her in private. That was the only thing he had said to her in the first 3 years of her life. Even though she was still very young back then, she still remembered it, and for the next 6 years she didn't dare to forget about it. Your identity as my fiancé is acknowledged by my grandfather. As for me, don't even think about it. I'll never acknowledge you as my fiancé. The fiancé I acknowledge will definitely be someone I like. She's definitely prettier than you, more elegant than you, cleaner than you, cuter than you, purer than you, cuter than you, purer than you, more." He said "more than you" many times, and every single one of his words was filled with disdain. "So, don't think that just because my grandfather made you my fiancé, we'll still be strangers from the start to the end. Even if my grandfather transfers you to my school, you'd better watch your mouth in school. If I hear any rumors about us, I'll never forgive you." He didn't even give her a chance to speak before he said everything clearly, after which he turned around and left. But barely after taking 2 steps, he suddenly turned around and added with a commanding tone, "Do you hear me?" When she nodded, he seemed satisfied and swaggered off. At that time she was really young, only 13 years old. His fierce look really scared her a little, causing her to only eat a bowl of rice that night. Recalling this sight, Yao discreetly rubbed her stomach. To this day, she could still vaguely remember that night. She was so hungry that she couldn't sleep, and she felt so uncomfortable that she wanted to cry. He was just saying it casually to stop her from going back to school. Why did she take it so seriously? Not wanting to dwell too much on this matter, Lin Jiej casually nodded his head in an attempt to turn the matter around. But in Yao's eyes, his perfunctory attitude seemed to be saying, "Who would believe you?" Yao spoke up once more, and the aura around her grew much more solemn. "I still remember the words you said back then. That's why all these years I've never mentioned your name, and I've never spouted nonsense. None of my friends in school know that you and I." Initially, Yao wanted to use the word relationship with him, but after some thought, she realized that there was no relationship between the two of them at all. Thus, she changed her words and said, "We've talked." Chapter 90. Yao wasn't sure if it was just her imagination, but as her explanation grew clearer and clearer, she felt the air in the car growing thinner and thinner. She didn't say anything wrong, so why did the atmosphere suddenly become like this? Yao fell silent for 2 seconds before discreetly sneaking a glance at Lin Jiej, who was seated beside her. At this moment, a thin layer of ice seemed to have formed on the usually aloof man's face. His eyebrows, eyes, and even his slightly pursed lips were emanating an indescribable chill. How strange. He was the one who said those words, so why did he suddenly become so unhappy? Could it be that I've said too many things to him? Yao's eyes darted around in thought, and she felt that this was the most likely possibility. According to his rules, he didn't know her, so he was unwilling to interact with her too much. Why was she so foolish earlier? Yao tactfully shut her mouth and told herself not to talk to Lin Jiej anymore. The car returned to its usual silence. The car slowly drove in the direction of the Lin family, but the cold expression on Lin Jiej's face didn't show any signs of melting. In truth, he was a little confused when she said, "I remember everything you said back then." He didn't really understand what she was referring to, but it was only after she said something else that he vaguely recalled that there was indeed such a thing. How should he describe the situation back then? He felt a little indignant and angry, but he had nowhere to vent his anger, so he ended up directing all of his emotions at her. He blamed her a little. If it wasn't for her, he wouldn't have gotten a fiancé out of nowhere. No one liked the feeling of being coerced, and under his grandfather's coercion, his disgust for her grew exponentially. Under such circumstances, it went without saying that the words he said were as harsh as they could be. In truth, she wasn't in the wrong either. What she said was the truth, but he had no idea what was bothering him at this moment. Was it because she still remembered what he said back then? Or was it because he acted on impulse? Or was it because she used the words said to define their relationship? The more Lin Jiej thought about it, the more agitated he felt. And the more agitated he felt, the more stifling the atmosphere in the car became. In the end, even he couldn't take it anymore. Reaching out, he rolled down the car window, allowing the spring breeze to flow into the car. Just as the car was about to reach the Lin family residence, Yao's phone suddenly rang. She picked up the call, but due to Lin Jiej's presence, her voice sounded a little weak. "Hello? Senior Han? No, I haven't reached school yet. Something cropped up, so I might be a little late." Hearing Yao's words, Lin Jiej's eyebrows twitched slightly. He took out his phone, which only had 5% battery left, and began typing out a message. 5 minutes before the car arrived at the gate of the Lin family, the few servants left in the Lin family had all left. After the car came to a stop, Lin Jiej turned to the driver and said coldly, "Don't you have something to do later? You go ahead, I'll call a taxi later." Chapter 91. Without saying a word, Lin Jiej pushed open the car door and got out. Yao followed suit. But she didn't forget to thank the driver politely. "Thank you." The driver replied guiltily with a "You're welcome," before stepping on the accelerator and speeding away. Was he imagining things? Why did it feel like the Lin family's chauffeur was getting more and more difficult over the past decade? Facing the door, Lin Jej keyed in 666666, and after the door opened, he walked into the courtyard. However, after taking 2 steps, he noticed that Yao wasn't following him, so he turned around to look at her. Meeting Lin Jej's gaze, Yao thought for a moment, and it seemed like it was time for her to speak. So she said, "I'll wait for you here." Lin Jej's gaze seemed to have turned even colder, but his tone was still relatively calm. "I want to take a bath first. It might take a while, so I'll come in and wait." Yao walked into the courtyard, and after a moment of thought she said, "Why don't I take the cake first? You can leave after you're done bathing. It doesn't seem appropriate for us to be in the same car. If someone sees us at the school gates." Before Yao could finish her words, Lin Jej had already interjected, "I didn't bring my wallet," following which, his footsteps quickened significantly, creating a huge distance between them. Yao wanted to say that she could give him money, but just as the words were about to come out of her mouth, she suddenly remembered that she had accidentally spent too much on snacks while browsing Taobao 2 days ago. She was only left with 100 RMB now. There was no way she could give him money. Left with no choice, Yao followed Lin Jej into the house silently. It was fortunate that she had been to the Lin family's old residence before, and there were slippers for her in the shoe cabinet. Thus, she changed into her slippers and headed to the living room. Lin Jej, who had entered the house a little earlier than her, happened to be walking out of the dining room with a cup of hot chocolate in his hands. He walked up to her and passed the hot chocolate over. "Have something to drink first. I'm going to take a bath." Yao replied with an "oh" as she reached out to take it. Perhaps it was due to his carelessness, or perhaps it was due to the way she received it. The hot chocolate spilled all over Yao. It was fortunate that the temperature wasn't too high, so she wasn't scalded. However, her clothes. Yao lowered her head to look at the large stain on her chest, and a troubled look appeared on her face. How was she going to return to school like this? After which, as if knowing what she was troubled about, he pointed to the upper floor and said, "You should take a bath first. I'll head to my sister's room to look for a suitable set of clothes for you." "I guess that's all I can do," Yao replied with an "oh" before following Lin Jej up the stairs. Lin Jej pushed open the door to his bedroom and said to Yao, "Wait a moment." Then he walked into the changing room. Yao stood in front of Lin Jej's bedroom for a moment before walking in. This was the first time she had seen his bedroom. It was much bigger than her bedroom. The bed was also very big, and the cabinet was filled with all kinds of figurines and trophies. Chapter 92. Just as Yao was examining Lin Jej's bedroom, the young man walked out of the changing room with a white t-shirt in his hand. Yao quickly retracted her gaze and looked at Lin Jej. Lin Jej tossed the t-shirt to her and said, "Put on my clothes and go take a shower. I'll go to my sister's bedroom to help you look through your clothes." Hugging Lin Jej's t-shirt tightly, Yao nodded. After Lin Jej left the bedroom, Yao entered the washroom. A second later, the sound of running water could be heard from the washroom, and a second later Lin Jej, who had casually grabbed a dress from Lin Jai's wardrobe, dashed into the bedroom. Just as he tossed the dress onto the bed, Yao's phone, which was placed on the bedside table, rang. Lin Jej glanced at the caller ID. It was Han Jing. Is he calling to ask me when I'm going back to school again? He sure is patient. Lin Jej switched Yao's phone to silent so as not to disturb her in the washroom. At the same time, he stood up and began pacing around the bedroom. When he made the second turn, his gaze fell on the door of his bedroom. "Didn't you say that the specialty would spoil after a night? Then all I have to do is trap her here for a night." With such a thought in mind, Lin Jej walked over to his bedroom, picked up the key and turned it around and around the lock. After a long while, he finally pulled the key out and twisted the doorknob. After confirming that the door was locked from the inside and that it could only be opened from the outside, he walked over to the balcony, pulled open the window, and mercilessly tossed the key into the blossoming flowers below. After taking a shower, Yao looked around the bathroom for a hairdryer, but it was to no avail. In the end, she could only open the door and walk out. Lin Jiej was sitting on the sofa with a nonchalant expression, playing with his charging phone. He was much taller than her, so his t-shirt only reached up to her thighs. Even so, Shi Yao still felt a little unnatural with most of her legs exposed. She subconsciously squeezed her thighs together before speaking weakly to Lin Jiej. That hairdryer, hearing her voice, Lin Jiej raised his head to look at her. Her half-wet long hair draped over her shoulders. Perhaps it was because of the hot water her face was flushed. Although she wasn't tall, her body was well proportioned. Her legs were long and straight, especially the part that was exposed, which was dazzlingly white. Lin Jiej stared at her for a long while before he finally snapped out of his daze. He walked over to the table, took out a hairdryer from the drawer, and tossed it onto the table. With a thank you, Shi Yao walked over and grabbed the hairdryer. She plugged in the power on the table, and was about to blow her hair when she stared at a magazine on the table with wide eyes. That magazine was written in Japanese. She did not understand what it meant, but the woman in the picture had big breasts, fair skin, and sexy movements. Even though she had never read such a book, she knew that this was not suitable for children. Noticing that she wasn't blow-drying her hair, Lin Jiej shot a perplexed look at her before following her gaze to the table. When he saw the words on the magazine, 1,000 curses of Liang Juicy, screw you, flashed across his mind. The hell? A few days ago I came to stay over at his place, and at night I hugged a book and felt my blood boiling with excitement. In the end, it turns out to be a Japanese erotic manga. The problem is, you can read it, but can't you take it with you when you leave? Chapter 93. It took Lin Jiej a long while before he managed to say, "That's Liang Juicy's, not mine." He had never explained himself to anyone so guiltily before. The problem was, everything he said was the truth. Why did he feel so guilty? Lin Jiej forced himself to calm down as he continued. "He came to my house a few days ago, but he forgot to take it with him." With a reddened face, Shi Yao replied with an "oh" before falling silent. She didn't know how she should continue the conversation either. In Lin Jiej's eyes, her reaction seemed to be filled with disbelief. Lin Jiej felt even more guilty. While he was cursing all 18 generations of Liang Juicy's ancestors in his heart, he turned to Shi Yao and said, "I don't like that girl in the manga." In that instant, Lin Jiej felt like biting off his own tongue. Was he trying to explain? He was obviously making things worse the more he tried to explain. What did he mean by he didn't like the girl in the manga? Wasn't he indirectly telling her that he had read the manga? But he clearly hadn't seen it before. Over the past 2 days, he had dug a pit for Han Jing, a pit for Shi Yao, a pit for his grandfather, a pit for his grandfather, a pit for his chauffeur, a pit for his chauffeur, a pit for his servants, and so on and so forth. Had he dug a pit for himself too? The gears in Lin Jiej's head swiftly spun as he hurriedly replied, No, that's not what I meant. What I meant was that I don't like girls, pooh." He didn't like girls. Could it be that he liked boys? How could he be so self-deprecating? Without any hesitation, Lin Jiej pointed to the bare-chested lady on the cover of the magazine and said, "I don't mean that I don't like girls. I mean I don't like—" Before Lin Jiej could say the words "a girl from a manga," he suddenly froze. He was trying to clarify, so why did he go back to the original topic? Was his IQ fed to a dog? The problem was, not only was his IQ fed to the dogs, even his brain had a problem. He actually didn't know how to explain next. Just as Lin Jiej was feeling anxious, Shi Yao suddenly spoke up, "That, I understand. Did she understand his nonsensical explanations?" Lin Jiej's mind calmed down a little. He was just about to reply with a "it's fine as long as you understand," but before the words could even reach his mouth, Shi Yao's face had already reddened, and she spoke up once more with a soft voice. "Why you guys, don't you like to watch these kinds of things?" In the end, she didn't understand what he meant at all. In a moment of desperation, Lin Jiej blurted out, "I'm not a man. Damn it, the more I talk the messier it is. Liang Juicy, F*CKU #% yin #% and %." Looking at Shi Yao, who was trying her best to stifle her laughter, Lin Jiej cursed Liang Juicy furiously in his heart as he explained anxiously, "I'm saying that I'm different from those normal men, F*CK, Is he calling me abnormal? There was no F*king explanation for this. Feeling a little annoyed, Lin Jiej walked up to Shi Yao, picked up the magazine, and mercilessly tore it into shreds before tossing it into the trash can. Chapter 94. Forget it. It's best if I don't say anything. Lin Jiej hastened his footsteps, intending to leave the bedroom as soon as possible to calm himself down. However, Lin Jiej walked up to the door of the bedroom, stretched out his hand, and twisted the doorknob for a long time, but the door simply wouldn't open. The heck? What the heck is going on? Why won't the door open? Lin Jiej exerted more strength, and just as he was about to knock on the door, Shi Yao, who had just finished drying her hair, suddenly asked, "What's wrong?" "The door is broken. I can't open it," Lin Jiej said as he twisted the door lock, causing it to creak endlessly. How could the door be broken? Shi Yao tossed the hairdryer aside and ran up to Lin Jiej to take a closer look at the door lock. However, after examining it for less than 5 seconds, she suddenly looked at Lin Jiej with a peculiar gaze and asked, "Isn't it locked from the inside? You should have just used the key to open it." How could he not know such a simple question? Hearing Shi Yao's words, Lin Jiej suddenly recalled that he was the one who locked the door from the inside. The reason was, it was fortunate that she had reminded him, or else he would still be immersed in the erotic manga incident. "Is that so?" Lin Jiej replied calmly, after which, he let go of the doorknob and reached into his pocket to search for the key. He rummaged through his pocket, but he couldn't find the key anywhere. He muttered under his breath, That's weird. Where's the key? Could it be that I slipped on the sofa when I was sitting on it earlier?" As Lin Jiej muttered to himself, he turned around and walked over to the sofa. Why isn't it here? I remember going upstairs with the key. Since he was putting on an act, he had to play it to the fullest. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej feigned a hazy memory and turned to look at Shi Yao. "I went upstairs with the key, right?" Shi Yao, who wasn't paying any attention to this at all, shook her head and replied honestly, "I didn't see anything." "Where did I go after entering the bedroom?" Lin Jiej pretended to be deep in thought. Thinking that everything was real, Shi Yao replied obediently, "You went to the changing room, and you went to the table to get the hairdryer." Following Shi Yao's instructions, Lin Jiej went to all of the locations that she had pointed out. However, when he still couldn't find the key, he turned to Shi Yao and said earnestly, "Can you help me look around too? What if I've missed something?" "Oh, all right." Shi Yao obediently followed Lin Jiej's instructions and began searching for the key. 10 minutes later, the key was still nowhere to be found. "Perhaps I left my keys on the bar counter when I was pouring your hot chocolate earlier." As Lin Jiej spoke, he took out his phone and said, "I'll call them to open the door for us." "What? You went back to the countryside? You can't come back now." "Gosh, you went to the suburbs to look at flowers with your friends. You want to resign? Your husband cheated on you? Are you going to catch an adulterer?" Lin Jiej, who seemed to be constantly on the phone, but in truth, he hadn't made any calls at all. After hanging up the last call, he glanced at Shi Yao and muttered, "People these days are getting more and more unprofessional. It looks like I'll have to call Auntie Sun and see if she can make some time to come back." Chapter 95. You can't come over? Grandpa is on a drip? Just lost? Alright then. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before covering his phone with his hand, and turning to Shi Yao, he said, "Auntie Sun will only be able to come over after Grandpa's transfusion. Is that alright?" After saying those words, Lin Jiej muttered to himself, "But I wonder if something will happen to Grandpa tonight without Auntie Sun around?" Shi Yao was just about to nod in agreement when she heard Lin Jiej's first sentence, but upon hearing his second sentence, her words froze on the tip of her tongue. Grandpa Lin was currently in a critical condition. If Auntie Sun were to return to open the door for them, what if something were to happen to Grandpa Lin during this period of time? She didn't have class the next morning. Although she was going to have hot pot with her roommates tonight, she could ask them to change the time. However, if that was the case, they would have to stay in this room for the entire night. Shi Yao hesitated for a moment before speaking up. Why don't you ask Auntie Sun not to come over? Grandpa Lin can't do without her. Having achieved his goal, Lin Jiej's expression was incomparably calm. He seemed to be conflicted over something as well, and after half a minute, he finally reluctantly said, "All right then," after which Lin Jiej placed the phone by his ear and said, "Forget it, there's no need for that. Take good care of Grandpa." After hanging up the phone, the whole bedroom fell into silence. Sitting on the sofa to the north of the bed, Lin Jiej elegantly grabbed his phone and began sending frenzied messages to Liang Juicy. "Screw you, Liang Juicy, you piece of trash, you bastard, you shameless pervert." Liang Juicy quickly replied with a message. "My grandpa is no longer around. Why don't you consider me?" Scram, scram, scram. "I'm telling you, I'm not done with you." Liang Juicy, did I offend you? I kept sneezing just now. Tell me, did you scold me? I'm King impotent from your text bombardment. Oh, you actually have a small penis? I thought you didn't. I can only rely on erotic comics to fantasize. Meanwhile, Shi Yao took out her phone and sat on the carpet to the south of the bed. She began apologizing to her roommates in the WeChat group. "Babies, I'm sorry. I have something on today, so I won't be able to return to school. Can we reschedule for tonight?" Lotus Leaf Hitianteng. "Ow, I hate you. Lemon Lingman. I love Li Fang Jiangyu. Infinity. Gee, please look into my eyes if you stand me up." Separated by a bed, Shi Yao and Lin Jiej didn't say a word to one another. In this peaceful atmosphere after a long time, Shi Yao's phone finally rang. It was a call from Han Jing. Shi Yao was in the midst of playing with her phone when she picked up the call. "Senior Han?" Lin Jiej, who was in the midst of criticizing Liang Juicy, abruptly halted his typing. "I'm sorry, Senior Han." Chapter 96. Shi Yao's hand suddenly trembled, and she nearly dropped her phone to the ground. Han Jing, who was talking on the other end of the line, suddenly went silent. Taking in all of this, Lin Jiej continued to sing calmly. This time his emotions grew more intense, and his voice grew louder as well. "Giving up everything I have, it doesn't matter." Han Jing snapped out of his daze. Shi Yao also snapped out of her daze. She knew what Han Jing was going to ask, so before he could finish his words, she replied softly, "It's a friend of mine." "Oh." Han Jing waited for a long time, but seeing that Shi Yao had no intention of explaining herself, he moved his lips. Then, "I'll be hanging up now." "All right, goodbye." Seeing that Shi Yao had hung up the phone, Lin Jiej's lips curled up, but he didn't stop singing. "Time flies, I can't tell you all about my youth, but my story is still about you." The night was still long and time passed slowly. Despite being in the same room, neither of them felt sleepy at all. At 8 p.m., Expert of the Monkeys sent a message to Yao Loves Ice Cream, and 111,111 in the Sexy and Frisky WeChat group. "Do you want to play? Do you want to play? Do you want to play?" Ding dong. Shi Yao's phone rang. Ding dong. Lin Jiej's phone rang as well. Shi Yao glanced at Lin Jiej's phone before tapping into her WeChat. After reading Expert of the Monkeys' message, Yao Loves Ice Cream hesitated for a moment before replying. "I can play, but I can't turn on voice chat because it's not convenient for me." Ding dong. Lin Jiej's phone rang. Expert of the Monkeys. "Sure, no problem. Let's talk through text." Ding dong. Shi Yao's phone rang. Ding dong. Lin Jiej's phone rang. Who is he chatting with? Why is he sending me messages so frequently? Shi Yao turned to look at Lin Jiej before starting to search for her earphones in her bag. She searched for a long time but to no avail. Left with no choice, she switched her phone to silent mode and logged into the game. In any case, it wasn't like she could hit anyone. She could hear footsteps, cars and landmines, but who knew where he was? Juice shared a room in the group. 111,111. "Boss, are you coming?" Ding dong. Lin Jiej's phone chimed with +3. 111111 popped up. "Yes, but me too. It's not convenient for me to communicate through voice." Expert of the Monkeys. "Hee boss, are you cracking a cold joke?" Ding dong. Lin Jiej's phone chimed with a +4. "Juice." When did you communicate with us? Ding dong. Lin Jiej's phone chimed in. 111,111. Shi Yao couldn't help but glance at Lin Jiej once more. He probably also felt that his ringtone was too abrupt in the quiet bedroom, so he plugged the earphones back into his phone and stuffed them into his ears. Silence returned to the bedroom, and Shi Yao retracted her gaze to look at her phone. The game begins. The first round pretty normal. Daily chicken dinner. The second round, due to her uncomfortable sitting posture, Shi Yao had to change her seat. Lin Jiej was a little far away from her, but since she had changed her seat, he was able to catch a glimpse of her entire body from the corner of his eye. Her phone was facing away from him, so he couldn't see her screen clearly. However, her fair and slender legs kept darting into his field of vision. Note: the song Lin Jiej sang was A Short Love Lasts, and it became very popular on TikTok. Hello TikTok. Chapter 97. Even though Lin Jiej was distracted by Shi Yao's thighs, he still retained a certain level of rationality. As soon as the game started, he was able to control his in-game character to parachute, land, and pick up equipment normally. In fact, when he bumped into an enemy in a room, he was able to react swiftly and use his UMP-9 submachine gun to kill the enemy before they could react. As the second round dragged on, the number of times Lin Jiej's eyes drifted toward Shi Yao's thighs increased. Just when he couldn't even count whether it was the 10th or 11th time he was looking at Shi Yao's thighs, someone sniped him from afar and killed him. The third round, Lin Jiej could hear Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlei's chatter through his earphones. However, he wasn't paying attention to what they were saying. It wasn't until he heard them calling out "Boss! Boss!" that he finally snapped out of his daze and slowly retracted his gaze from Shi Yao's thighs. It was then that he realized that his in-game character hadn't moved at all ever since he parachuted into the ground. He casually walked into a room, but after walking around for a while, he didn't find anything at all. It was only when Xia Shangzhou said, "Boss, I've already looted that room," only then did he realize that the room was really empty. There wasn't even a smoke grenade in it. Xia Shangzhou sure is a bunch of bandits. Wherever he goes, not even a blade of grass grows, Lin Jiej lamented as he leaped out of the window to head to the next room. However, for some reason, his gaze fell on Shi Yao's body once more. His t-shirt was a little too big for her body. Nevertheless, he could still vaguely tell that her figure was exquisite and well-proportioned. His gaze lingered on her slender wrist for a moment before slowly moving down to her exposed thighs. Under the light, her skin was so tender that not even the slightest pore could be seen. As Lin Jiej stared at her, he suddenly felt his throat tightening. For some reason, the air in the room grew thinner and thinner. Even his breathing became more and more strenuous. Lu Binlei, "Boss, if you don't run away from the blue circle soon, you'll be poisoned to death." Xia Shangzhou, "Boss, I've already tossed you some medicine. Let's not bother with you anymore. Let's take Sis Yao away first. There's a car in the garage about 50 meters ahead." Some time later, Lin Jiej suddenly heard some sounds in his ears. Without saying a word, he slowly shifted his gaze from Shi Yao's legs to the phone screen. It had been 10 minutes since the game started, and he hadn't picked up any equipment. His HP bar had been poisoned to half. Xia Shangzhou, "Boss, what are you doing instead of picking up the loot?" Ignoring Xia Shangzhou's curious question, Lin Jiej stared blankly at the screen for a moment before he bent down to pick up the medicine they had tossed to replenish his health, after which, he continued walking forward in a daze. After taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped moving. His gaze uncontrollably fell onto Shi Yao's thigh once more. "Boss, you only have a sliver of health left. You're going to die soon." Lu Binlei's voice sounded in the earpiece. Lin Jiej had lost count of how many times he had been jolted awake. He was just about to heal himself when an AI suddenly appeared behind him and fired a shot at him, following which, he collapsed to the ground. Chapter 98. Xia Shangzhou, "You didn't see wrongly, you didn't see wrongly. Our boss was really killed by a robot. What a humiliation." Lu Binlei, "How infuriating. He was actually killed by a robot." Amidst Lu Binlei and Xia Shangzhou's merciless ridicule, Lin Jiej silently put down his phone. Without their main damage dealer Lin Jiej, they barely made it to the final circle. All along, Shi Yao had thought that 111111 was caught up in something and couldn't focus on the game, resulting in such a situation. But in the fourth round, 111111's performance was even more bizarre. When he jumped out of the plane, he jumped in a completely different direction from everyone else. And that wasn't all. He even opened his parachute in midair and floated in the air for a very long time before he finally landed on the ground. No one knew what he did after he landed, but after a while, a car logo appeared behind his profile picture. Shi Yao thought that he was going to drive over to look for them, but after waiting for a while, she realized that he was getting further and further away from them. Curious, Shi Yao tapped on the minimap to check on 111111's location, and she couldn't help but sweat in embarrassment. 111111 had actually driven his car into the sea. In the fifth round, 111111 didn't jump out of the plane by himself. Instead, he chose to follow her. As soon as he landed, he coincidentally entered the same room as Shi Yao. The self-aware Shi Yao didn't pick up any good equipment and left them to less than 111111. However, as if a wooden statue, 111111 stood by the window of the room, not moving for a long time. When he finally reacted, he bent down to pick up a harmless smoke grenade. Unable to speak, Shi Yao was rendered speechless for a moment. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and sent a over. 111111 didn't respond to her. Instead, he froze on the spot once more. Shi Yao then typed another line. Why aren't you picking up anything? Before Shi Yao could send those words, less than 111111 had already been killed by a hail of bullets from the opposite house. The sixth round, the seventh round, the eighth round, the ninth round. It was as if Mr. Numbers was possessed by her. He was either hammered to death, rammed to death, smashed to death by a frying pan, or drowned in the sea. In any case, he was reduced to a crate. Boss's condition isn't right? It's not just wrong, it's very wrong. I've never seen such a new boss. This isn't my boss. In my heart, my boss is unparalleled. An existence that can compete with the sun and the moon. Boss, did someone hack your account? Bro, it's shameless to steal an account. Please go offline quickly. Paying no heed to Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou's outburst, Lin Jiej took off his earphones, tossed his phone aside, and chose to hang out in the game. In order to prevent himself from looking at Shi Yao again, he leaned against the sofa and closed his eyes to rest. But barely half a minute had passed before the image of Shi Yao's fair and long legs surfaced in his mind. The dry mouth, panic, fever, and other symptoms that appeared when he was playing the game appeared again. Closing his eyes, Lin Jiej breathed in and out repeatedly, only to find that his body grew hotter and hotter. His mouth and tongue grew parched, and his heartbeat grew even more erratic. Calm down, calm down. 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 = Shi Yao's fair thighs. The heck? Unable to take it any longer, Lin Jiej abruptly stood up from the sofa and headed to the changing room to grab a set of home clothes before heading to the bathroom. Chapter 99. By the time the 10th game was over, it was already midnight. Juice, an expert, who had lessons the next morning, told Shi Yao that she wasn't playing anymore. Shi Yao replied with an "oh." Out of curiosity, she sent a private message to Expert of the Monkeys and asked, "What's wrong with your boss? Why does he look so weird today?" Expert of the Monkeys: "I don't know. Juice and I are curious too. He's never been like this before. Yao loves ice cream. Don't you guys live in the same dormitory?" Expert of the Monkeys: "Yeah, but our boss didn't return to the dormitory today. This is the first time our boss hasn't returned to the dormitory during class. Something's going on." Expert of the Monkeys: "Sis Yao, do you think our boss went out to do something bad behind Juice and my back?" Shi Yao replied with ellipses as she thought. "This is the first time I'm seeing a guy who's more gossipy than a girl like me." After the message was sent, Shi Yao, who was still disdainful of Expert of the Monkeys' gossipy nature a second ago, couldn't help but tap on the screen. "Your boss actually didn't return to the dormitory? Who knows, he might really have a girlfriend. Does this mean that after tonight your boss won't be as pure as ice anymore? Wahahaha. Your boss actually met his own Jeeping. Shi Yao, an expert of the monkeys, discussed for quite a while before they finally bade each other good night and ended the gossip. The bedroom was very quiet, and she could vaguely hear the sound of running water coming from the bathroom. If she wasn't mistaken, Lin Jiej had been in the bathroom for more than half an hour. How did he take so long to shower? Scary, a man like him is actually living a more delicate life than a girl like me. With no one to accompany her, Shi Yao fell into a daze for a while before tapping on a video streaming app to watch A Bite of China to pass the time. Shi Yao had no idea how long she watched it for, but she could remember that drowsiness was slowly creeping up on her. By the time she finally succumbed to sleep, the sound of running water still hadn't stopped. After taking a cold shower for more than an hour, Lin Jiej finally calmed down. He turned off the faucet, wiped himself dry, and put on his clean home clothes. Then, he stood at the door of the bathroom and silently thought, 1 + 1 = 2. Finally, he opened the door and walked out of the bathroom. He walked to the table and picked up the hairdryer. Just as he was about to blow dry his hair, he saw a girl lying on the carpet not far from him, asleep. Softbun sure is bold. To think that she would dare to sleep so casually in the same room as a stranger. Lin Jiej stared at Shi Yao for a moment before putting down the hairdryer. He walked over to her and bent down to pick her up. She was probably really sleepy because he didn't wake her up. He gently placed her on the bed. When he got up, his gaze landed on her chest. The collar of his t-shirt was a little big on her body, and he could vaguely see half of her chest. It was just a single glance, but Lin Jiej quickly averted his gaze. With a reddened face, he pulled the blanket over her tightly. He stood up straight, but his feet seemed to be enchanted. He couldn't move no matter how hard he tried. Chapter 100. In the instant that his lips touched hers, he suddenly stopped. It was as if he was fighting against something with all his might. A glint flickered in the depths of his eyes, and even after a long time, he still chose not to touch her. He tilted his head slightly to avoid her lips before holding his breath in silence for a moment, after which, he straightened his body and switched off the lights in the bedroom, leaving only the night light on before walking away. As she was asleep, he didn't blow his hair dry, fearing that the noise from the hairdryer would wake her up. Leaning against the sofa, he absent-mindedly fiddled with his phone for a while before turning his head to look at her on the bed. As he stared at her, he suddenly felt the urge to take a cold shower in the bathroom. This feeling sure is killing me. Is it because I've never touched a woman before that I can't control myself? He suddenly felt that trapping her in his room for an entire night, just to prevent her from returning to the academy, was a foolish move. Lin Jiej forced himself to retract his gaze, fearing that he might really do something disrespectful to her. Thus, he sat on the sofa for a while longer before getting up and quietly making his way to the balcony with his phone in hand. Outside in the middle of the night, it was eerily quiet. Leaning against the white jade railing of the balcony, he gazed at the night sky for a while before sighing deeply. It wasn't that he hadn't endured long nights before, but today's night was even longer and more torturous than his nights alone. The next day, Shi Yao woke up naturally from her sleep. She opened her eyes and stared blankly at her unfamiliar surroundings for a moment before realizing that she was in Lin Jiej's bedroom. And she was lying on Lin Jiej's bed. Shi Yao stared at the ceiling in a daze for 10 seconds before she hurriedly tore off her blanket and leaped out of bed. Wasn't I sleeping on the floor? Why am I on the bed? Shi Yao lowered her head to take a look at her clothes before looking around the bedroom. The room was empty, and Lin Jiej was nowhere to be seen. Beside the pillow was a dress, and on top of the dress were some toiletries. They were probably meant for her. The door to the bedroom was ajar. Clearly, someone had opened it from the outside with a key. So, Lin Jiej had already gone out? After making sense of the situation, Shi Yao grabbed the toiletries by the pillow and walked into the bathroom. Halfway through brushing her teeth, she suddenly looked at herself in the mirror and widened her eyes. Last night, was it Lin Jiej who carried her to bed last night? Shi Yao's face reddened, and for some reason her heartbeat became erratic. After washing up, Shi Yao didn't dare to linger in Lin Jiej's bedroom any longer. She quickly grabbed her things and headed downstairs. As soon as she walked into the living room, she saw Lin Jiej sitting on the sofa. Suddenly, she remembered that he had carried her to bed last night. She blushed again and stopped in her tracks awkwardly. "Good morning." "Morning." Lin Jiej was only able to say a single word before an Achu snatched the rest of his sentence away. Shi Yao turned to look at him in shock. It was only then that she realized that he was carrying a tissue box in his embrace, and the table in front of him was filled with discarded tissues. Did he catch a cold? Before Shi Yao could say a word, Lin Jiej had already tossed aside the tissue in his hand and stood up. "Let's go. The driver has been waiting outside for quite some time now." As he spoke, he let out another Achu. Just like how they had entered the Lin family yesterday, Lin Jiej walked in front while Shi Yao followed behind him. However, along the way, there were a few more sneezes than yesterday. Chapter 101. Under Lin Jiej's sneeze, the car slowly drove toward Ji University. Just as they were about to reach the campus, Shi Yao saw the breakfast shop she frequented, and she subconsciously said, "Leave me here. I'm going to have breakfast." The driver shot a glance at Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej, who was wiping his nose with a napkin, nodded, and the driver stepped on the brakes to stop the car by the roadside. Having starved for an entire night, Shi Yao got out of the car and headed straight for the breakfast shop. She ran up to the counter and said, "Boss, I'd like 3 bowls of wontons." "You actually ordered so many?" Lin Jiej, who was following behind her, was just about to ask, "Do you have any friends coming over to eat?" But before he could say a word, he sneezed heavily. Noticing the movement, Shi Yao turned to look at Lin Jiej in surprise and asked, "You want to eat too?" Of course, if he wasn't going to eat, why would he follow me in? Lin Jiej covered his nose with a napkin, not saying a word. Shi Yao asked again, "What do you want to eat then?" With a nasal voice, Lin Jiej replied, "Anything." "Shi Yao, how about the same as me? How about wontons? Their wontons are really good." Lin Jiej nodded. Shi Yao asked seriously, "How many bowls do you want?" "How many bowls? Am I hearing things? 1 bowl isn't enough? How many bowls?" Lin Jiej's lips twitched, but he fell silent once more. Shi Yao suggested in a negotiating tone, "I'll order a bowl for you first then. If it's not enough for you later, I'll add more for you, all right?" Lin Jiej nodded his noble head once more. Shi Yao turned around and said, "Boss, I'd like 4 bowls of wontons." Didn't he order 3 bowls already? Why did he add another one? While sneezing, Lin Jiej asked the question he was holding back earlier. "Are you having breakfast with your friends?" Shi Yao shook her head and found a seat. "Nope, it's just the 2 of us." Lin Jiej was just about to pull out the chair opposite her when he suddenly froze. "Just the 2 of us? Does that mean that the 2 of us are going to eat 4 bowls of wontons?" In that instant, Lin Jiej recalled Shi Yao asking him, "Do you want to eat too? And how many bowls do you want?" Could it be that the 3 bowls of wonton that she ordered at the beginning were for her alone? She ate 3 bowls alone? Lin Jiej examined Shi Yao's frail body from head to toe, and he thought that he must have caught a cold and was hallucinating. Just as he calmed himself down and pulled out a chair to take a seat, Shi Yao, who was seated across from him, suddenly seemed to have recalled something. She turned to the counter and said, "Boss, I forgot to say that I want 4 big bowls of wontons." Big bowl? So he wasn't hallucinating? Then, did her classmate ask her to help bring breakfast? Due to his cold, Lin Jiej was feeling a little dizzy, so he didn't dwell on the matter for too long. Soon, 4 bowls of wontons were served. By the time Lin Jiej gracefully stirred the wonton with a spoon to cool it down, Shi Yao had already finished half a bowl. By the time Lin Jiej finished 3 dumplings, Shi Yao had already finished a huge bowl. By the time Lin Jiej finished half a bowl of wontons, Shi Yao had already finished 2 big bowls. By the time Lin Jiej finished 2/3 of a bowl of wontons, Shi Yao had already finished half of her 3rd bowl. Lin Jiej decided to stop eating altogether and stared at Shi Yao in front of him. By the time Shi Yao finished her 3rd bowl, Lin Jiej stared at the 3 empty bowls in front of him and blinked his eyes repeatedly. Slowly, his shattered soul began to gather back together. So, did she really order those 3 bowls of wontons for herself? 3 big bowls. Chapter 102. It took a long time before a comment surfaced in Lin Jiej's mind. You sure have a big appetite. To think that you can eat more than a grown man like me. How embarrassing. After eating her fill, Shi Yao noticed that Lin Jiej was staring at the 3 bowls in front of her, not moving his spoon at all. Ignoring her, she turned to Lin Jiej and asked, Are you full? Actually, I'm not full yet. It's just that I'm suffering from a terrible cold and dizziness, so I don't have much of an appetite. Lin Jiej replied with a light in response. 1, 2, 3, 4. He actually had 6 wontons left uneaten. What a pity. What a waste. Shi Yao looked at the remaining half a bowl of dumplings in Lin Jiej's bowl, and she hesitated for a moment before raising her hand and beckoning to the owner. Boss, the bill. Miss, what are you looking at? Don't tell me that you're still not full after eating 3 big bowls of dumplings, and you're still thinking of snatching my bowl of dumplings as well. Afraid that Shi Yao would suddenly reach out and snatch the bowl away from him, Lin Jiej discreetly reached out and pulled the bowl closer to him. Only after the boss walked over and reported the price did he let go of the bowl and reach into his pocket for some change. Shi Yao also took out her money and said, Let me do it. Lin Jiej passed the money to the owner first and said, I don't have the habit of living off a woman. Living off a woman. It referred to a man being supported by a woman, and it was commonly referred to as a gigolo. He's treating me as a gigolo? Shi Yao's gaze on Lin Jiej turned a little bizarre. Meeting her gaze, Lin Jiej was taken aback for a moment before he realized that he had used the wrong words. What's wrong with me? Ever since she saw the erotic manga on my table last night, I've been saying the wrong word. Lin Jiej rubbed his throbbing temples as he added, What I meant was that I don't have the habit of letting a woman treat me to a meal. Oh. Shi Yao nodded her head vigorously, indicating that she understood. Lin Jiej took the change from the owner and kicked the chair behind him away. Let's go. Shi Yao took her things and obediently followed behind him. The driver didn't leave, waiting by the roadside. However, Shi Yao didn't follow Lin Jiej. About that, hearing that voice, Lin Jiej halted his footsteps and turned around to look at Shi Yao. He saw that she was standing at the entrance of the breakfast shop, not following him, and a slight frown appeared on his forehead. Shi Yao, why don't you get the driver to send you back to school? It's not too far from here, so I'll just walk over. The frown on Lin Jiej's forehead deepened. Seeing that Zhang Xian wasn't reacting to her words, Shi Yao explained, Well, it's almost time for morning classes, so there should be a lot of people in the academy. It won't be good if we return to the academy like this. How strange. There's nothing wrong with what she said. He doesn't want anyone to know that they're acquainted. Noticing that Lin Jiej's expression had turned even darker, Shi Yao couldn't help but mutter under her breath. So you should get on the car. I won't be joining you. Lin Jiej's lips were tightly pursed together as he stared at Shi Yao with an indescribably fearsome gaze. Shi Yao took a small step back, deciding to slip away. I'll be leaving first. Bye-bye. As she said those words, Shi Yao began walking toward the entrance of the academy. Barely after taking 2 steps, she caught a glimpse of Lin Jiej walking toward her with a livid expression from the corner of her eye. What is he doing? It can't be that he's going to beat me up, right? Chapter 103. But before she could even get 2 meters away, Lin Jiej suddenly grabbed her arm. Whoa you! Before Shi Yao could finish her sentence, Lin Jiej had already interjected. You take the car back to school. I'll walk back. Shi Yao was stunned. 2 seconds later, she raised her head to look at Lin Jiej. The young man's expression didn't show any signs of improving, but there wasn't the slightest hint of displeasure in his tone. If she had to describe his tone, it would be helplessness and dejection. Why would he speak in such a tone? While Shi Yao was still in a daze, Lin Jiej had already pulled her arm over to the car and said, Take her back to school. Don't forget about the cake in the trunk. Remember to pass it to her when she alights. The driver, Yes, young master. Without saying a word, Lin Jiej opened the car door and shoved Shi Yao inside. Just as he was about to close the door, he suddenly seemed to have thought of something. He placed one arm on the roof of the car and the other on the door. Leaning forward slightly, he stared at Shi Yao and asked, "Are you very close with Liang Juxi's cousin?" Lin Jiej had no idea just how seductive his actions were in the eyes of the onlookers. Shi Yao felt as if there was a little deer hiding in her heart, running around aimlessly. She gulped down a mouthful of saliva, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop the little deer. Thinking that she didn't know who Liang Juxi was, Lin Jiej continued, "Liang Juxi's cousin, the last next door. Her name is Liang." Lin Jiej shot a glance at the driver, and the driver quickly added, "Mumu." "Ah, that's her." As Lin Jiej spoke, he turned his gaze back to Shi Yao and asked, "Are you very close with her?" Shi Yao tried her best to calm the little deer that was running around in her heart. "And we're pretty close. Whenever she has something good to eat, she'll share it with me." "Miss, are you using this method to determine the degree of closeness?" Lin Jiej was silent for a moment before he moved his lips once more. "About that." He only spoke those two words before he suddenly stopped. Shi Yao raised her head and looked at him. "What's wrong?" Lin Jiej didn't say a word. Shi Yao waited for a moment before asking, "Lin Jiej?" Recovering from his daze, Lin Jiej replied with a faint, "It's nothing," before closing the door and taking 2 steps back, signaling for the driver to leave. As the car started up, Shi Yao glanced at Lin Jiej through the window. The youth sneezed again. He took out a tissue from his pocket and wiped his nose. Being handsome indeed had its benefits. Even such an unsightly action was a beautiful sight to behold when it was done by him. After sighing, Shi Yao suddenly recalled Lin Jiej's earlier question, "Are you very close with Liang Juxi's cousin?" She pursed her lips and lowered her eyes. Although he didn't say it, she seemed to know what he was going to say. But why did he stop when he said that it was only the beginning? Shi Yao vaguely understood the reason why he had stopped, but she couldn't be too sure. Or rather, she thought that it was impossible. Why would he be so kind as to warn her about Liang Mumu? He had a close relationship with Liang Juxi. They were brothers who had grown up together, and Liang Mumu was his neighbor. She had grown up following behind him in Liang Juxi. No matter how she thought about it, he shouldn't be siding with her. This was really weird. He was clearly going to tell her not to hang out with Liang Juxi's cousin. Chapter 104. How strange. He was just about to tell her to stop hanging out with Liang Juxi's cousin. But why couldn't he bring himself to say those words? Was it because he was afraid that she would be upset after learning that her close friend had ulterior motives? Or was it because he was afraid that she would think that he was overthinking things and think too badly of her friend? Perhaps there was a reason behind all of these, but he was indeed afraid that she would be upset. Just like how she had been mocked by 2 of Liang Juxi's friends at the Golden Resplendence a while ago. He really didn't want to see that happen to her a second time. "Forget it, I'll just have a chat with Liang Juxi and have him keep an eye on my cousin." But Liang Juxi, who only knew how to read erotic comics every day, had such a low IQ. Why was his cousin so scheming? She didn't seem like someone from the same family at all. He had to admit that Liang Juxi's cousin really knew how to put on an act. Those few casual words she said to his grandfather might seem harmless on the surface, but in truth, she was trying to tell him that Soft Bun had an unusual relationship with another man. Wasn't she hinting to him that Soft Bun was still fooling around outside even though she had him as her fiancé? Why are there so many things that girls do? What's wrong with you? With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej leisurely walked toward the entrance of the school. He didn't notice that there was someone in a car about 10 meters behind him who had just recorded the scene. On the way back to his dormitory room, Lin Jiej didn't forget to buy a box of cold medicine from the school infirmary. Pushing open the door to his dormitory room, he thought that Xia Shangzhou and Lu Benlai were still asleep, but the 2 of them were already neatly dressed, standing guard at the entrance like 2 guardians. Lunatics. Lin Jiej shot them a disdainful glance before walking into the dormitory room. Lu Benlai quickly followed behind him, holding a bottle of yogurt as if it was alcohol. "Boss, I have alcohol. Please tell me your story." Xia Shangzhou hurriedly grabbed a few ham sausages and instant noodles from the cupboard before walking over as well. "Boss, I have meat." Please tell me your fortuitous encounter last night. Is it too late for me to change dormitories now? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej pulled out a chair, sat down, and switched on his laptop. Seeing that Lin Jiej was ignoring them, Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai's tone immediately softened. Boss, I'm begging you. Please tell us. Boss, don't you love little Lai Lai? You don't even talk to little Lai about anything. Little Lai is so sad. With an impassive expression, Lin Jiej keyed in his computer's password and took out the USB drive to copy something. Lu Binlai, Daddy. Xia Shangzhou, Dad. Lu Binlai, son, you're addressing him wrongly. You should be calling him Grandpa. Xia Shangzhou. F***ck off. The two of them argued for quite a while before they realized that they had gone off topic. They quickly turned to look at Lin Jiej, but before they could say anything, Xia Shangzhou's sharp eyes caught sight of what Lin Jiej was copying. With a horrified look on his face, he exclaimed, Boss, didn't you say that you didn't want to take on this project? You feel that this project is too difficult and pays too little, so it's not worth it. Why did you accept it now? While tapping on the keyboard, Lin Jiej casually replied, Oh, I suddenly realized that I'm very poor. Boss, you're insulting me. Yes. Not counting the family assets, just the savings in your bank account alone is more than 8 digits. How dare you say you're poor? You're showing off. Chapter 105. That's right. Boss, you'll lose me if you continue like this. You'll lose me too. Heh. As if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, Lin Jiej sneered disdainfully and said disdainfully, You make it sound as if I've had you before. Lu Binlai. Boss, as long as you're willing, you can have me any time you want. Xia Shangzhou, Boss, I'll warm your bed for you tonight. Oh no, I'll warm the bed for my 8-digit savings. Lin Jiej's lips twitched. He couldn't be bothered with these two shameless fellows anymore. After copying the documents, Lin Jiej switched off his laptop and picked up a book by the side. I'm going to be late. Let's head to class. Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai grabbed their textbooks and followed behind him. While walking out of the dormitory room, Lu Binlai didn't forget to ask, Boss, I'm serious. Why did you suddenly accept that project? That's right. Before Lin Jiej could finish his words, Xia Shangzhou had already interjected, Boss, don't tell me that you suddenly feel that I'm poor or something like that to fool a 3-year-old. No, even a 3-year-old wouldn't be fooled by such words. I'm being serious. I really do feel that I'm a little poor, so I recently discovered a... At this point, Lin Jiej suddenly paused and swallowed the words a girl back into his stomach. Then he changed his words. A pet that has a huge appetite. It's the kind that can eat 3 men's meals in a single meal. I'm afraid that my savings won't be enough, so I decided to work hard to earn some money. Xia Shangzhou widened his eyes in shock. What kind of pet is that? It actually has such a huge appetite? Lu Binlai's mouth widened in shock. Boss, the pet you're talking about can't be a pig, right? Huh? Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou burst into heartless laughter. However, their laughter only lasted for less than 3 seconds before it abruptly died down. That was because their boss's expression was filled with displeasure. Lu Binlai reacted swiftly, and in the next second, he shot a thumbs up at Lin Jiej and began fawning over him, as expected of our boss. Even a pet you're raising is so refreshing. Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai reacted in unison, Boss, I'm begging you for the type of pet. I want to raise the same pet as you. You must be joking. How could Soft Bun be a pig? Even if it was a pig, it was the one and only pig in this world. So, if you want to raise the same type, dream on. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej hastened his footsteps. Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou shouted, Boss, as they sped up as well. Lu Binlai. Boss, speaking of which, where did you go last night? Don't tell me something really happened? Xia Shangzhou, that's right, Boss. You can't be like this. If you're not honest, you're not your roommate. This is the first time you didn't return home during the time you didn't ask for leave. Also, Boss, your dark eye circles are very heavy. It's obvious that you didn't sleep at all last night. So fierce. Furthermore, Boss, you even caught a cold. Don't tell me you're doing it outdoors? Lu Binlai, holy shit, my nose is about to bleed. I didn't know that our boss was such a good player. You know how to play your sister. At the mention of last night, Lin Jie's face darkened by half. He didn't sleep for the whole night, but it wasn't a ferocious night. He had indeed done it outdoors, but he had been standing on the balcony, exposed to the cold wind for an entire night. If he were to talk about his fortuitous encounter last night, the greatest fortuitous encounter would probably be that he, a top student of the mathematics faculty, had forgotten what 1 plus 1 was, and that he, the Adonis who claimed to be able to sleep with anyone who saw him, ended up running a cold fever last night. Chapter 106. Xia Shangzhou and Liu Benlai, who were still indulging in their fantasies by the side, suddenly noticed that there was something amiss with Lin Jie's expression. The two of them thought that they had gone overboard with their jokes earlier, so they tactfully pretended that nothing had happened and changed the topic. Student Liu, the weather today isn't too bad. Student Xia, the weather isn't too bad today. The sky is clear, and there are white clouds everywhere. Retracting his thoughts, Lin Jie shot a glance at Xia Shangzhou and Liu Benlai, who were discussing the weather with a serious look as if he was looking at a bunch of idiots. Then, he glanced at the smoggy air outside through the window of the school building's corridor, and he couldn't help but curse in his heart. Those two fools. I really want to pretend that I don't know them. What should I do? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jie hastened his footsteps. A second after the three of them entered the classroom, the class bell rang. Seated in the last row, Lin Jie had only listened to the lecture for 5 minutes when he had already copied the information into his notebook and started reading through it seriously. There was a paragraph in which the letters appeared frequently. As Lin Jie read through it, his gaze eventually landed on the letters. Esher Yao's initials. Once upon a time, he would remember her name so deeply that he would think of her whenever he saw a single letter. Lin Jie reached out his finger to touch this on the screen. Then, he suddenly recalled that the information he had recalled last night wasn't everything. When he returned to his bedroom to use the toilet in the middle of the night, he saw a certain unique and unparalleled pet on his bed. She kicked the blanket away and he walked up to cover her up. Perhaps it was because the temperature in the room was a little warm, but her face was flushed red. Lin Jie picked up his phone and opened his photo album. There were only 2 photos in it. One was of her munching on an apple in his grandfather's ward yesterday afternoon. The sun was warm and the years were peaceful. The young lady's eyebrows were adorned with a satisfied smile. The other was of her sleeping self last night. Her long eyelashes were slightly curled up like butterflies, and her rosy lips were slightly pouted. Her entire face was brimming with a heartwarming cuteness. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the 4 members of the sexy and frisky group gathered punctually on the desert map. 111111 wasn't as dazed as he was yesterday, but he wasn't in a particularly good state either. At 10:30 p.m., 111,111 logged out of the game. Curious, Shuyao asked, "Why did your boss leave?" Juice, an expert, who had been chattering nonstop, did not reply to her in the voice chat. Instead, it was Expert of the Monkeys who sent him a message. "Boss isn't feeling well. He's running a fever. He just took his medicine and fell asleep, so Juice and I can't talk anymore." Shuyao quickly replied with 3000 before falling silent. Due to the lack of voice communication, Shuyao had no idea what Expert and Juice were up to, so she was unable to keep up with their tempo. Expert and Juice were busy commanding her with their messages, and due to the two of them being multitasking, a moment of carelessness resulted in the 3 of them getting ambushed, resulting in a party wipe. Ambushed means to kill you when you're not paying attention. By the time the match ended, it was already close to 11. Shuyao informed Juice and Expert that she was done with the game. Chapter 107. It sure was a coincidence that Mr. Numbers and Lin Jie fell sick at the same time. However, Lin Jie seemed to be suffering from a rather severe cold this morning. I wonder if he's feeling any better now? With such thoughts in mind, Shuyao couldn't focus on her shower. Last night, she had fallen asleep due to her drowsiness and occupied his bed. Did he catch a cold because he didn't get a good night's rest? An indescribable sense of guilt welled up in Shi Yao's heart. In the past, when she didn't have much interaction with him, she thought that he was a cold and aloof person who was difficult to approach. However, after interacting with him a few times, she realized that he wasn't what she had imagined him to be. He was very polite and filial to his elders. In fact, he even gave her his car this morning. But the cake he had the driver bring her was really delicious. It seems like the topic has drifted off. Shi Yao hurriedly pulled her thoughts back from the cake. Should I send him a message to show some concern for him? This question lingered around Shi Yao's mind even after she had finished her shower and was lying on her bed. She hesitated for a long while before tapping on her phone and searching for Lin Jie's name. She carefully organized her words, then typed a line of words on the screen. Have you recovered from your cold? Shi Yao wanted to tap on the send button, but before her fingers could touch the screen, she shrunk back timidly. Wasn't it a little too abrupt for her to send him a message like this? After all, to him, she might still be that person whom he didn't want to know at all. Shi Yao pursed her lips as she stared at her phone for a long time. In the end, she still chose to give up. She locked the screen and tossed her phone to the side of her pillow. It was best for her not to meddle in his affairs. Just like how she shouldn't have worried about his cold when she was bathing earlier, she shouldn't have been worrying about it. The two of them had never belonged to the same world. Even though they had crossed paths over the past 6 years, it was only a point of intersection. It was destined that the two of them would walk further and further away from each other in the future. When she proposed to cancel the engagement, he agreed to it without any hesitation. If not for Grandpa Lin's sudden illness, they would have already severed all ties with each other by now. Shi Yao closed her eyes and turned around. She didn't know what was wrong with her. It wasn't that she didn't have these thoughts in the past. At most, she felt that his words were too hurtful and hurt her self-esteem. But now she felt that her heart was in a mess. She couldn't sort it out and she couldn't find the source. The next afternoon, Shi Yao didn't have any lessons, so she woke up from her afternoon nap. While waiting for her 3 roommates to head out for hot pot, she logged into the game and played for a while. Then she met a new friend, Northern Tea. In the evening, while Shi Yao was eating hot pot, she received a message from Juice, an expert in the Sexy and Frisky chat group. They had a get-together that night, so they'd have to play a little later. Shi Yao replied with a "got it," before turning her attention back to the hot pot. It was barely 8:30 by the time Shi Yao returned to her dormitory room. With nothing else to do, she logged into the game once more. 111111 was actually online and had even invited her to form a team. Wasn't there supposed to be a gathering tonight? Why didn't he go? Perplexed, Shi Yao walked into the room and heard the sound of sneezing coming from the other end of the game. It was only then that Shi Yao recalled that expert had told her last night that less than 111,111 was suffering from a fever. Chapter 108. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao swallowed her bewildered words and asked, "Have you recovered from your fever?" 111,111, replied with a nasal mm. Shi Yao didn't say anything, but she suddenly thought of Lin Jie. A cold isn't a serious illness, but it's still a painful one. I wonder how he's doing today. 111,111. Get ready. Shi Yao snapped out of her daze, and just as she was about to start the game, she noticed that there was an unread message in her friends list. She tapped on it and saw that it was a message from her friend, Northern Tea, whom she just met in the afternoon. "Big sis, do you want to play with me?" As Shi Yao spoke to 111,111, she also invited Northern Tea. "I want to invite a friend." Room 501. Lin Jie, who was wrapped in a thick blanket with 2 balls of toilet paper stuffed in his nostrils and a fever relief patch on his forehead, thought that the person whom Yao Loves Ice Cream had dragged over was her close female friend in real life, so he didn't think too much of it and started the game. After entering the matchmaking zone, a male voice sounded in his earpiece. It was Northern Tea, who had been invited by Yao Loves Ice Cream. "Big sis, are you done eating?" "Yao Loves Ice Cream." "I'm done." Northern Tea. "What did you eat?" "Yao Loves Ice Cream." "Hot pot." Listening to the conversation between the two of them, a slight frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead. He typed a few words on the keyboard and sent out a message. This is Yao loves ice cream. I made a new friend this afternoon. Lin Jiej didn't say anything else, but an indescribable displeasure surfaced in his heart. It was the same displeasure he'd felt when he found out that Han Jing had sent Shi Yao a message in his grandfather's ward yesterday. How strange. Why did Big White Chubby and Soft Bun always evoke the same emotions in him? Yao loves ice cream spoke up once more. Northern tea is amazing. She brought me to 2 chicken dinners this afternoon. Ever since I met you, I've eaten 20 chicken dinners with you. Why didn't you praise me for being amazing? Lin Jiej didn't feel like speaking anymore. Ever since the game started, Northern Yao loves ice cream had been chatting non-stop. Northern the killer. Miss, am I awesome? Yao loves ice cream. Impressive. Amazing my ass. What's there to brag about jumping into a desolate and uninhabited place and killing a robot? Lin Jiej pretended not to hear their conversation. Northern, miss, there's a level 3 helmet here. Come and pick it up. Yao loves ice cream. I'm coming. Northern tea. Am I good? Yao loves ice cream. Sure. Haha, good my asterisk s. I didn't expect Big White Chubby to be not only fat, but also blind. Glancing at the blue circle, Lin Jiej found a car by the side of the road and began honking furiously, urging the two of them to get into the car and flee from the blue circle. Northern tea boarded the car first, followed by Yao loves ice cream. After that, Northern tea, who was seated in the front passenger seat, moved to the back seat and sat side by side with Yao loves ice cream. Motherf asterisk her, did they think he was their driver? Lin Jiej stepped hard on the accelerator, and the car sped off. Northern tea. Miss, watch how I bring you to a chicken dinner. Chapter 109. Northern tea. Little Missy, you're actually pretty good at getting chicken dinner. You even saved me when I was knocked out earlier this afternoon. Young man, are you sure you're praising by Chubby and not scolding her? Saving people is common sense, alright? If you don't even know how to save your teammates, what's the point of playing a game like this? Lin Jiej pressed down on his phone and drove as fast as he could. Yao loves ice cream. Clearly didn't think that she was being scolded. On the contrary, she thought that she was being praised. After all, this was the first time she had heroically saved someone in the game. I realized that this game isn't that difficult after all. In the past, I didn't even dare to move when people attacked me. But now, I actually dare to save someone. Is this the resonance between two noobs? Lin Jiej's lips twitched as he thought, Big White Chubby isn't just a fatty, she's blind and she's a fool too. Northern tea. Little Missy, you're the best little Missy I've ever seen. Northern tea. Little Missy, can I add you on WeChat later? Add me on WeChat. It took Lin Jiej a second to hear those words, but he immediately stepped on the brakes. Northern tea. Number 1, why did you stop? The poison is coming. Ignoring Northern tea, Lin Jiej tapped on the screen and jumped back into the car. This time, however, he chose to sit in the front passenger seat instead of the driver's seat. Northern tea. Number 1, aren't you going to drive? Northern tea. If you're not going to drive, I'll drive. Come down and let little Missy and I sit in the front. But before he could finish his words, the car suddenly exploded. Following which, 3 lines of text appeared on his phone screen. 111,111 eliminated Northern with grenade shard. 111,111 eliminated Yao loves ice cream with grenade shard. 111,111 eliminated. 111,111 with grenade shard. Yao loves ice cream. How did I die? What happened? Northern tea. The heck? Number 1, what are you doing? Why did you blow up a car full of people? Continue chatting, continue chatting. Didn't you say Little Missy is awesome? Little Missy will bring you to chicken dinner earlier? Why aren't you chatting now? Didn't you say you were going to take me to a chicken dinner? Now that the entire team had been wiped out, due to his cold, Lin Jiej's throat was hurting so much that he couldn't be bothered to speak. Facing the incessant questioning from his earpiece, He leisurely tapped on the screen a few times and sent out a message. Sorry, my hand slipped. Northern Tea. While Northern Tea was still in a daze, Lin Jiej didn't start the second round immediately. Instead, he added Northern as a friend. It didn't take long for the friend request to be accepted, but Lin Jiej still hadn't started the game yet. Chapter 110. It was just 4 short sentences, but it was more than enough for Northern to understand. Yao loves ice cream's current situation. The one who played games with him and was called cute and coquettish by him was actually an old auntie. Not only was she married, but she had also given birth to 2 children. Northern didn't respond to Lin Jiej's message. Even though it was through the screen, Lin Jiej could still feel the other party's broken heart. Very well. I'm relieved that you're in a bad mood. Lin Jiej didn't send any more messages to Northern Tea. Instead, he leisurely closed the chat window and entered the game lobby. It was as if he knew what was going to happen next, so he didn't start the game. Instead, he started counting in his mind, and when he reached 5, Northern's furious voice sounded in his earpiece, "Bloody hell. What a scam. You liar." After which, Northern backed out of the room. This was the moment he had been waiting for. A second after Northern left, Lin Jiej, who was aware of everything, feigned ignorance and asked doubtfully, Did something happen while I was in the toilet? Why did your friend back out? Is he not playing anymore? When Northern Tea spoke, Shi Yao, who had no idea what was going on, was stuffing the unsealed ham sausage into her mouth. By the time she swallowed it down, Northern Tea had already backed out of the room. 111,111 spoke up. She could only change her question of what's wrong to the same number of words. I don't know. After a moment of silence, Shi Yao said, I'll go ask him what's wrong. As she spoke, Shi Yao tapped into her friends list, but she couldn't find Northern at all. That's weird. Why can't I find Northern Tea? From start to finish, she scanned through her few friends list once more to confirm that Northern Tea wasn't among them. Only then did she realize that he had deleted her from his friend list. Perplexed, she asked, I only went through a pack of ham sausages, so why did Northern Tea delete me from his friend list? I didn't do anything at all. Why would he do that? Shi Yao suddenly recalled the profanity Northern Tea had spewed out earlier, and she wondered, could he have been cursing me with those words? 111,111 said with a nasal voice. His tone was also puzzled. I don't know either. I don't think he's scolding you. After all, no one provoked him. Yao loves ice cream. Then why did he delete me from his friend list? Maybe it's because 11111 was silent for a while. I accidentally killed the 3 of us with a bomb just now. He thinks your teammates are too weak, so he doesn't want to play with us anymore? Shi Yao pondered for a moment, and she felt that 111,111's words made sense. After all, she had performed well, and she had even saved Northern in the game earlier today. Thus, she nodded and said confidently, that's most likely the reason. 2 seconds later, Shi Yao added, but it's not like you're a noob. It's just that your hand slipped. Who hasn't made a mistake before? This person is too realistic. This time, roughly 30 seconds later, Lin Jiej found a motorbike and started racing. Wherever he saw a rock, he would knock it down, and just as he had hoped, he ended up falling to his death. Yao loves ice cream saved Lin Jiej for the 3rd time, and it just so happened that the blue circle had appeared. When Lin Jiej got close to the safe zone, he intentionally stopped moving, allowing the poison gas to poison him to death before climbing into the safe zone. Yao loves ice cream saved him for the 4th time. Chapter 112. Lin Jiej kept changing his methods, making himself die one after another so that Yao loves ice cream would save him one after another. It was only after he had been saved by Yao loves ice cream 10 times that he finally picked up the AWM that he had secretly looted when he passed by the airdrop and activated his frenzied slaughter mode. That damn Northern T who only knew how to call him Little Missy. What's there to be proud of just being saved by Big White Chubby once? I've been saved by Big White Chubby 10 times. After winning the chicken dinner, before starting the next round, Lin Jiej heard the sound of packaging being unwrapped from Yao loves ice cream, sighed through his earpiece. Recalling the question Northern had asked her, he couldn't help but ask, "What did you eat?" So he couldn't help but ask, "You haven't stopped eating the entire night. What did you eat?" Yao loves ice cream, ham sausage, Wong Wong snow pancake, white rabbit creamy candy, macadamia nuts, drunkard's peanuts, jelly. It was just a casual question. Did she really have to reply in such detail? As this thought flashed across Lin Jiej's mind, a sentence suddenly echoed in his ears. Yuxiang shredded pork, red braised pork, Sichuan poached fish, tea egg, a bowl of rice, and a bowl of pork ribs corn soup 2 days ago. When he heard that Soft Bun had gone to visit his grandfather, he had rushed over to stop her from chatting with his grandfather. This was the answer Soft Bun had given him when he asked her what she had eaten for lunch. Surprisingly, Big White Chubby and Soft Bun's answers were identical. Lin Jiej stared at his phone screen for a moment. Even he didn't realize that he had blurted out, "They really look alike. Yao loves ice cream." "What do you mean?" Lin Jiej recovered from his daze and replied nonchalantly, "Nothing much. Big White Chubby and Soft Bun's voices didn't sound alike, but there were still some similarities between them. It was a pity that he hadn't interacted with Soft Bun much, so he didn't know her that well. But then again, it couldn't be such a coincidence that they were the same person." Lin Jiej lowered his gaze. But for some reason, he really hoped that Big White Chubby was Soft Bun, and Soft Bun was Big White Chubby. As she didn't have any lessons the next day, she indulged herself and played until late into the night. By the time she woke up the next day, it was already noon. As soon as Shi Yao opened her eyes, the first thing she thought about was what she should eat later on. Today was Friday. The big cafeteria had chicken drumsticks and the small cafeteria had braised fish. Shi Yao hesitated for a long time before deciding to head to the canteen to buy some red braised fish first before heading to the main canteen to order some chicken drumsticks. Having arranged lunch perfectly, Shi Yao immediately climbed out of bed to wash up. But in the midst of washing up, He Tiantian suddenly screamed, "Yao!" Zhang Yu and Leng Nuan were jolted awake by He Tiantian, and they hurriedly sat up and shouted, "Earthquake?" One of them rubbed his eyes and asked blankly, "What happened?" Ignoring Zhang Yu and Leng Nuan, He Tiantian continued scrolling through her phone screen while shouting loudly, "Yao Yao, come over here! Yao Yao, bad news! Yao Yao! Shi Yao!" Shi Yao continued dawdling in the washroom until she was done washing up before walking out. "What's the matter? Can we talk about it in the canteen?" Eat. You're still thinking about eating at a time like this." He Tiantian rushed up to Shi Yao and shoved her phone into Shi Yao's hands. "Take a look for yourself." Shi Yao lowered her head and saw that He Tiantian's phone was showing the school forum page. Currently, the most popular thread was, "G University's female student spends the night with a different partner." Chapter 113. So, the reason why He Tiantian called her out so anxiously was to show her the school gossip thread? Compared to food, she really wasn't interested in gossip at all. The title of the thread was extremely alluring, and anyone who saw it would be tempted to click on it to learn more about it. Shi Yao was no exception. However, she could take her time to read it after lunch and have her afternoon tea. Without clicking on the title, Shi Yao passed the phone back to He Tiantian and said, "I'll accept the gossip you've shared with me, but let's go eat first." "Student Shi Yao, I'll allow you to go eat, but I beg of you to take a look at the content of this thread first before deciding whether you want to eat or not, alright?" He Tiantian had a slightly plump body, and she would smile whenever she met others. It was rare for her to be so serious. This was the first time Shi Yao had seen her like this ever since she entered the university. Shi Yao was silent for 2 seconds before she took back He Tiantian's phone. Raising her finger, she tapped into the thread titled, "A certain G University female student spends the night with a different man." The person who posted the thread was titled Slaughter Lu Bu Bang Diao Chan. Yao felt a cold sweat trickle down her spine. What a weird name. However, she was in a rush to head to the canteen, so she didn't linger on the name for too long. She quickly moved on to the main thread. Who would have thought that a certain G University female student spends the night with a different man? Alright, let's get straight to the pictures. The first picture was of a black Audi parked in front of the female dormitory. A female student dressed in pink jumped out of the car and bent down to speak to a man inside. It was probably taken with a phone, so the quality of the image wasn't too clear. She could barely make out the female student's face, but other than the outline of the man, which was a middle-aged man, it was hard to make out anything else. The situation depicted in this picture might be foreign to others, but to Yao, it was extremely familiar. She was the female student, and the car belonged to the Lin family. The middle-aged man was the chauffeur of the Lin family. The second picture was taken in front of a motel. She was still the female student, but the male student was Han Jing. The third picture was even more familiar to Yao. It was the night 2 days ago when she followed Lin Jiej into his house. In the fourth picture, it was still her and Lin Jiej, but the time was changed to the morning of the day before yesterday. She and Lin Jiej were walking into a breakfast shop one after another. Out of the 4 pictures, her face was the clearest, so everyone could tell that the person in the pictures was the same person. This post was posted at 3 in the morning. Up until now, 9 hours had passed, and the number of comments had already reached almost 800. Yao skimmed through the contents of the first page. Those people didn't know who she was, but they were all insults directed at her. Lying on the bed, Jiang Yu and Leng Nuan noticed that something was amiss with Yao's expression, so they quickly put on their clothes and rushed over to Yao's side. When they saw the content on He Tiantian's phone, their complexions immediately turned awful. On the third page of the thread, a sock puppet named Tearing Apart the Green Tea Bitch revealed her information. I know her. She's a freshman from the English faculty, and her name is Yao. She's from the same dormitory as Leng Nuan, the girl who nearly outvoted Qin Iran in the recent Campus Bell selection. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.